This is Just Be Play. This is a sort of video podcast experiment where we're going to do a commentary track about the movie Pulp Fiction. I'm a filmmaker, an entrepreneur of some sort. I'm here with two friends of mine who can also be described as filmmakers. They're very talented photographers, and they also dabble in the motion pictures. Let's get started talking about this. It's mostly going to cover cinematography and story construction and stuff like that. So, you listening at home should have Netflix or whatever program you have to watch your movie. Get Pulp Fiction started at 0. And in just a moment, I'm going to tell you when to hit play. All right. Are we ready over there?
Yes.
And let's hit play. Everyone should be playing. We should be seeing Pulp Fiction and the Miramax logo right now. There we are. All right. So this is really unstructured. I've thought nothing about what we're going to be talking about. I just know that every time I watch this movie with people, I keep talking over it, and I think they're humoring me. So I'm using this as an opportunity to just humor myself and just get it all out. So, Pulp Fiction is an incredible film. And when was the first time either of you watched it, by the way?
Devin?
The first time I watched it was about a year and a half ago, but I fell asleep. And then I watched it for the second time yesterday, and I loved it.
Yes.
So,
in advance of this, you watched it.
So second time's the charm, yeah.
Good one.
And how about you?
I probably watched it for the first time 4 or 5 years ago, and then I watched it probably once a week for about a year or so, 2 years ago.
You bring
Once
up
a
it.
week?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably about once a week.
Wow.
I used to watch this in my sleep.
It's hard to not watch it.
It's an insanely watchable movie.
Yeah.
One of the main things I love about this is not just because we're starting it in the middle, which is something that most people weren't used to at the time, because this movie is told non-linear, which is, there's a filmmaking term for that. It's called in medias res, and it's Latin. It basically means you're starting this in the middle. And Quentin Tarantino loves to experiment with that kind of storytelling because obviously it lets him tell a straightforward story in a way that's very interesting based on the way those individual stories are butted up against each other. And that's the best part to me about this movie, is that you're seeing the entirety of a film, but you're not seeing it in the order that you're used to. So you actively have to be thinking about why scenes are being shown to you right now, and or you don't. Maybe you've always just watched this for whatever reason and just let it go. But I really like that it's told out of order.
I also think it kind of makes you immediately invested in it. Because I feel like usually when you watch a movie, you have like that build-up where they make you feel attached to the characters, then one of them dies, then you feel sad, and then by then you're kind of waiting for the climax. But here we're right before the climax.
I like
before
that.
the movie even
I like that. You're
progresses.
Right. Yeah, and all this stuff suddenly happens, and you're trying to play catch up. And the other thing I like about this is that Quentin Tarantino doesn't hold things very precious. Like, his shots are always really carefully composed, but he doesn't have that adherence to symmetry like Wes Anderson does. He doesn't need to have tableaus, perfectly whatever shots. This is an example of a really great push-in. See how there was no camera motion up until this point? Then he did that one push-in as he was talking. With that kind of economy of camera motion, you can really make your moves mean something. And I've seen it again and again where a new filmmaker will just get out there and try every Michael Bay camera shot they can to see what makes things look cool. And good, get that stuff out of your system. Eventually you'll find the discipline to reserve those motion shots for when they're needed.
Because there's only one Michael Bay.
There is, thank God, only one Michael Bay.
You
I have a
only
feeling
watch
in every
Transformers
country
so many times, yeah.
there's probably this country's Michael Bay. But we don't have to see those movies, so let's all just be thankful.
We just are on the 6th or 8th or 1 millionth Transformers movie now. So.
Yes, the last night will certainly not be the last.
Yeah.
That's not dating this too much. So, anachronistic, not anachronism because it's just out of time. It's weird to see people smoking in restaurants again.
We were talking about that yesterday.
Very strange. Both of you were, under 21 right now when this is being recorded. You probably don't remember ever going into a restaurant and seeing or smelling the smoke smell in California where we are.
First time I was on an airplane, all the ashtrays are welded shut. Mm-hmm. I never had any of that sort of experience before.
I always think about the food too.
Yeah, I think about the ash and the food, and especially later when John Travolta and Uma Thurman are at the
they're
burger
smoking
joint.
like chimneys the whole time.
While they're eating.
It's smoking over the food. I just can't.
I could see it being good for a char-broiled burger. That would just make it more burgery.
I think you smoke a cigarette and you drink something. But the idea also, how do you eat? How do you cut something if half of your hand
has ash?
Yeah.
These are all pressing issues that are unfortunately not addressed by Pulp
something I actually realized is with Quentin Tarantino while we're looking at these shots.
Yeah.
Notice how she's framed with the rule of thirds, looking inward, the same way that you'd want to for an interview shot, but whenever they have something action-packed, their rule of thirds on the outer edge of the frame facing away from where the camera is.
So you're describing look room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
they look the opposite direction.
well, that's actually a deliberate technique used to create a sense of anxiety. When
Right.
someone's looking, let's say there's a shot of Amanda Plummer, and then since it's looking to the right, and she's all the way over where Tim Roth's character is, that's a very anxiety-producing image because it doesn't make sense to us. Why is all this negative image on the left there? Why can't we see more of what she's looking at? We freak out. So look room is a
Yeah.
really important thing, and you can use it very deliberately, which I don't know if in this case Quentin Tarantino designed it to feel that way or it was just a happy accident. He could just be a very intuitive filmmaker, but that's a very good point. And this song, Missouri Lou by Dick Dale, is since become a very popular song with the people who both like this movie and like surfing. It's a very surfer sounding jam. This movie, I'm pretty sure, was responsible for practically launching Sam Jackson's career. I mean, he did Jurassic Park at the same time. He had a decent body of work before this, but nothing on the level that he received after this movie. And that's too bad to wait that long, as an actor to find that level of success. That's dedication, because he was acting for a very long time before he became discovered.
But I mean, I guess to be discovered for something like this probably puts you in a better place.
Oh yeah,
Or
I
a
mean,
more
you're
renowned
rocketed.
place professionally than it would had you been discovered for some, sad, low budget horror movie where you're running from some sort of, underwhelming serial killer.
So basically, it's a good thing he's not Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Actually, well, I like that because does your first big movie that you get noticed on, does that set the trajectory for your career? Because you could easily get typecast if you do something so well so quickly. So it's kind of like the sophomore slump they talk about, which is where, you can be the indie darling for your first film. You're going to be like, how can I top that for my second one? And then as a result, it's not as good because you've defeated your own self. So
Something to talk about that, something that I really like about Quentin Tarantino is the casting that he usually does for his movies, sometimes involve the same people. So if you look at this movie, you look at some of the recent ones, Hateful Eight. You look at Four Rooms. You
Same
look at
actors.
Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
They have a lot of overlapping characters. Well, not necessarily characters, but actors and actresses.
yeah, and you see that a lot with films like by Scorsese or anyone else that
Right.
works with Leonardo DiCaprio forever because as a director, you can appreciate when you find someone that you can work well with or a whole crew that you can work
You
well
want to
with.
work
Why
well
not
with them
keep
over
working
and
with
over
them?
again? Yeah.
So, that's great. There's a tow car here. So Sam Jackson in this case is not driving, which is why he barely looks at the road. They're being towed by a car in front of them. Occasionally, you can actually see it in the windows, just over Sam Jackson's rearview mirror. You can sometimes see the tow car in the window. They tried to frame it out so that all you see is the car they're in, which is like the green Dart, and people that love cars that are listening to this.
Chevy Nova.
Okay, perfect.
The
That's
Chevy Nova, which is actually very funny because Nova in Spanish is no go, and that's why that car was not a huge seller anywhere in America. Because we here are obviously too dumb
I like that.
to know what Nova means.
No, we're more comfortable with the Morongo because it has a word in there we associate with. Oh man, I actually was just recently watching this movie. So here's a fun thing. Look in the background. Look at the highlights on the car in just a second. You'll see little like squished ovals right now in the
Yep.
in the background. All the points of light aren't circular. Do you know why that is either?
Some sort of stretch in the film.
Yeah, you have it right in the concept. It's an amorphic lens.
It is an anamorphic lens.
Yeah, it's an anamorphic
Got it.
lens. I said amorphic. Wow.
Yeah. Is this shot on 65 millimeter?
Same thing.
This is shot on 35.
Got
So
it. Wow, this is 35.
Oh yeah, well
crazy.
you know why it looks so great? And you've brought me right into the next topic I want to discuss. This movie was shot with 50D film stock.
Right.
The entire movie, not exteriors. 50D for shots that take place late at night. Like that's insane.
So for the people that don't know what 50D is,
well, they're not listening to this.
Oh, hang on, real quick. While we're at this shot, though,
Yeah.
right now, this is something that Quentin Tarantino actually did that really revolutionized, different angles. He was, as far as I know and have read, he's the first person to ever do an out of the trunk shot.
So sorry, but I'm so happy
Who?
everyone else gets to hear this. Martin Scorsese did.
Really?
If you look at Goodfellas, this shot when they're trying to get, and in fact, it occurs in the first 4 or 5 minutes of Goodfellas. They're opening Goodfellas, another movie told out of sequence.
Got
It was the first time they go to see Billy Batts in the trunk, and they have to dig him, they have to kill him again and stab
And
him.
they,
because he's
they
not
have
dead
that
yet.
same shot.
It's exactly the same
Interesting.
shot, and they're all standing around laughing. No, wait, I'm mixing up Reservoir Dogs trunk shot,
Right,
where
Reservoir
they
Dogs-
also have someone in the trunk.
Right, that was also.
But
trunk
now
shot.
you're bringing it back to another great thing, which is that Quentin Tarantino is so clued into cinema that he can just seamlessly lift scenes from other people and make them his own. That's not stealing. That's art. You know, I don't care in that instance that he's taken a shot that someone else did. As long as he did it in a way that serves a story, I'm fine with that. Make the whole movie of Goodfellas again, but just change the name of the story and no one will know. I guess Scorsese did that himself with Casino. So
What year did Goodfellas come out?
I think it was 1990. It could have been 91, but I'm pretty sure it was 1990.
When did Reservoir Dogs come out?
It was in 92 in Sundance, and I think it got a theatrical in 93. So certainly to the point where it was an influence. And there's a scene coming up that I'll talk about that Quentin Tarantino, again, just ripped off wholesale in the sense of he heard an account of how something went down, and he said, okay, great, I'm just going to use that as dialogue and this scene that he's describing as the scene. So I'll point that out when it comes up. Now, this is an elevator. I love shots like this where you're just static, locked on. Look how powerful they look because we're below them. It's really subtle. If this had been shot level, that would have put us, the viewer, at an even keel with them. Whereas right now, we don't even necessarily know what's going on. So they are still these imposing, powerful men to us.
I also like the anamorphic soft focus on Samuel Jackson's head. Yeah. You see that because he's so much taller than John Travolta.
I didn't notice that, but I will have
Yeah.
to next time. Let's watch this just in its entirety. So this whole scene takes place in one take, up until the point where they get to the door. So it's about 3 minutes. And this was taken on a Steadicam, obviously. I love the light in this hallway, this strange labyrinth that you see all over. This is such a traditional LA layout for like an apartment.
I know.
All
the
sad
exits,
little
all the
Yes,
apartment.
of course you would know.
Yeah.
You've lived there.
Yes.
And it's got like probably a weird little center courtyard that there's always
for
some
sure
weird
has a
old
weird
lady
little
in
center
there with
court,
like her sun
potentially with a
hat.
fountain.
With a fountain that
Potentially
maybe
with a
is running.
fountain, but probably not.
But look how just gorgeous it is when they walk by those little pools of light. The contrast in this movie is so beautiful, and I hadn't understood until I found out that it was shot on 50D why it was such a striking look. Because with 50D, you're also shooting wide open most of the time. Your aperture is always going to be, for the most part, except in broad daylight, at its biggest opening. So I would imagine they were shooting it, whatever lens they were shooting on. Which, by the way, would you take a guess at this lens, either of you?
I would. Devin,
Okay.
you want to go or no?
You go for it.
I would guess that it's probably a 35, only because when we see shots, first of all, I think the lens that they used for this is 35, especially if you watch like the doors go by. There's not so much curve that you get with a 24 prime. But it's also, there's just enough distance there where a 35 would probably seem.
It's also important to remember in this instance that you're talking about film being run horizontally through a 35 millimeter camera.
Correct.
They're using film running vertically through a 35 millimeter camera, which makes their focal lengths not quite the same as what we're used to in still 35 millimeter
Right.
photography.
So I guess in that case, the 35 millimeter equivalent would be what?
28, maybe 20, 25 millimeter is a very standard lens for cinema. I'm guessing in this instance it was a 25. It could have been a 28. But the thing you talked about with the doors and the door frames, that can be gotten around by simply making sure that your camera is perfectly level as you go through them. You still get that distortion effect, but if the camera is kept level, it's minimized. If they tilted right now, you'd see some weird distortions. So I'm guessing this is probably closer to a 25. But either way, it's the same idea.
I'd be curious to see behind the scenes of it.
Yeah.
I've heard there's a text commentary on some manner of either Blu-ray release or something. I don't know how in-depth it gets, but that's definitely the kind of stuff that would be talked about.
Blu-ray release.
Blu-ray, what are optical media? So
What a
again,
phase
it's
in-
so
in
awesome just
cinema.
that this was all one take. Like that, can you imagine the sigh of relief as soon as they walked past camera and they got to cut? We're like, yes, we nailed it.
Wonder, yeah.
And then Quentin's like, no, we got to do it again, sorry.
Sorry, you moved a little weird that one time, John.
Try again, man.
Yeah.
John always kind of looks a little weird.
Yeah, well, this was his comeback movie. He wasn't ready for the spotlight quite yet. He was ready to do Look Who's Talking 3.
Is that hair a wig?
I think it's a hairpiece, otherwise it's just
'Cause
horrifying.
it looks like a hairpiece. doesn't
Sam
it?
Jackson's is. That's not his real hair.
Yes.
In fact, he was originally going to have, when it wasn't necessarily for sure Sam Jackson was going to play the role, he was going to have a bigger afro wig.
Really?
Like a bigger one. They didn't end up doing that. There's Marvin is the guy who was on Mad TV for a while. I apologize to that actor whose name I just forgot. But okay, let's watch the geometry here. Let's just watch the lines. The camera's not moving. There's a very clear setup for who is the antagonist in that instance. And they're both trying to, this is an act for them right now. They know the two hitman, Jules and Vincent, they know they're leaving with most of these people dead. So now they're just putting on a play for them. And I don't know why, I guess because it's fun and this is the way they can make their job more enjoyable. But they've already resigned themselves to shooting everyone in here that's not their man on the inside, which is Marvin, who will get shot on his own later, accidentally, spoiler alert, in retrograde. Big Kahuna Burger's a real thing now. There's one in somewhere south San Diego. My friend keeps talking to me about it and that we have to go there.
We should go.
I tell you, this burger that he picks up
doesn't
look
very
good to me.
good.
Yeah,
It does not look very
it
good.
looks real, which is unique for a movie.
But it doesn't
But
look
it doesn't
very
look good.
tasty. No.
But he makes that soda sound amazing.
He does.
Like
I'm
it
not
sounds
even
like
a
the
big soda person,
tastiest
but
Sprite anyone's
yeah.
ever drunk. So.
Yep.
Also, I noticed earlier in the hallway, Vincent's suit has quite a few wrinkles on it. Now, he just got back from Amsterdam. It's possible that he
After
took it out of
3
storage.
years.
Yeah.
It's true.
And I think that's a really cool adherence to detail. That's what a costume designer and prop supervisor should do. Let's also pay attention to how Vincent in the background says nothing until asked. He's just a looming presence, creating
just there.
anxiety
He's looking
for
around.
Brad, who's about to get shot. You can see him occasionally, the actor playing Brad, occasionally turn in his direction, Vincent's direction, because he's, imagine that. You don't know what these people are here for besides to kill you. And it's very, oh God, I love the sound design when he's doing stuff, when he's clicking that.
Hey, he's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, this movie doesn't
Is this
let
the
up.
first cigarette that he smoked the whole movie?
I think it's the first cigarette that Vincent smoked.
Yeah,
in the
yes.
movie that we've seen so far. Because
Correct.
Not
at this point he
chronologically
smoked
in the movie.
plenty.
Yeah.
So it's a loaded question, but it was fun to
It
answer.
is.
A lot of people have mentioned online that in the shot coming up, the bullet holes behind them were already there. So they're about to get shot at.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
those
I don't think we
balls.
see the resolution of that in this part. I think we see that much later at the end when they come back to the story.
Okay.
But we might be able to see the holes in the wall before they fire.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I think it's a continuity error. It's the kind of thing that now they just go up and patch it up in CG with like 10 seconds worth of work. But back then it would have been probably something they didn't notice until they got the dailies back. And by then they were like, well, we're not going back to that set. Do you see that fridge? Actually, I like the fridge in this place.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
What else think is interesting about this scene is that when we see Brad, we're always on his level.
Oh.
But then when we see Vincent or Jules, we always look up at them. So we have that like anxiety that the characters are feeling.
You're absolutely right. We get right on his level every time. We're not seeing it from
Like,
Jules' point of view.
Yeah, Quinn's
it's
making it very
level.
clear that we're on Brad's level in
That's
this.
really good. I have
to
noticed
kind
that.
of give us that like anxiety about
I'm glad
what
we're
they're
doing
going
this.
through.
This is really fun.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if all the people listening, which by the way, if you're not having fun, you've already stopped listening, so you won't even hear this apology. I'm sorry everyone else isn't having as much fun if you're not. But I love the way this character says knees. He goes, knees. It's the strength. Yeah, it's just, this guy never had a chance.
No. Poor guy. He needs better friends.
You know what? I hope he has them better on the next go-around.
Yeah.
No,
Hope he makes better choices.
Carlton, what would you say is in the case?
Yeah. What's your theory?
It's a flashlight hooked up to some batteries.
What's
Do you
your
mean in the reality of the movie?
Yeah. What's your metaphorical movie theory? about
I've heard
what's in the
all
case?
sorts of things, but I've never bothered thinking of anything because I don't care. Because now we're on a great new topic. The case is a MacGuffin. Are you familiar with a MacGuffin?
No.
A MacGuffin is something that puts plot in action that the characters in the movie care about,
Look at that smoke.
That you don't have to care about.
but
to
we, the
understand
audience,
movie.
don't care about it. Movies are filled with MacGuffins. The most famous one that I can think of in my case is Hitchcock's Psycho. Marion Crane steals a whole bunch of money and then has to go on the run. That starts the story in motion so we can start seeing Norman Bates kill people. Without Marion Crane stealing the money,
Popped.
and he's dead. You know, I don't think you die that way when you get shot in the stomach.
It's a slow.
Like-
Anything in the stomach is a slow, painful death.
Yeah, I mean, like,
So you learn
it just
in
seems
like war
unlikely.
books, you know, like you get hit in the stomach and like you're agonizing on the battlefield for like hours.
It's talked about in Reservoir Dogs too.
Yeah.
Harvey Keitel says
Right.
besides the gut, the kneecap is the most painful place to get
Yeah.
shot. It takes days to die from your wounds.
You die of
So
infection and like grossness.
Did that guy not get the note?
No. I mean, I think he died of a heart attack. He's like a rabbit, you know. They just get really nervous and their
yeah,
heart
let's-
just kind of is
No,
like, nope.
let's go with that.
No
there
more.
seems to be no concern about any sort of neighbors or anything.
I have the
hearing
same thought when
That's
I
what I
watched this
said, too,
recently. I'm
yeah.
like, seriously, there are this many gunshots in an apartment, and they're that cool about it, just
My
like walking
theory
out.
is
Say
that
what
people
one more time.
in this
Say what?
Yep.
is that people in this sketchy LA apartment complex probably used to gunshots and
Yeah.
don't want to get involved.
And you may be right.
You know, like they're hearing gunshot, they're like, oh, it's not me, it's not my family,
Better just
like
be
it's
happy to not
fine.
be
Yeah,
involved.
exactly.
That's a
You know,
very dour and possible
I will
likelihood.
say, for Quentin Tarantino, there is not a lot of blood in this movie compared to some of his other films.
Well, this was ostensibly only his second movie, so he hadn't really got a thirst for blood yet.
Can't
Well,
find a really
Reservoir
good
Dogs.
costume designer that
What,
can do
what
all
year
the
did
fake
this movie
blood.
come out?
Reservoir Dogs not that much
This
blood.
was in '94,
Yeah.
and then Reservoir Dogs was, you said, '92?
Yeah.
Right, well, Reservoir Dogs, if you remember when he was shot in the gut, there was blood all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
In the one of the opening scenes, well, not the opening scene where they have the meeting, but
Practically.
when he's in the car,
Yeah,
there's
he's
blood
dying
all
and
over the
kicking and
place.
bleeding.
Yeah, and screaming, and it's a very, very, very different picture.
Mm-hmm.
Here, he gets shot in the shoulder. His hand looks like it has a tiny bit of ketchup on it, but other than that,
Pretty soon Marvin's going to get shot in the face.
That's
and
what I was
one
gonna
of the
say,
same
yeah.
scenario.
that I would say
But do you think-
that is ridiculous.
Do you think he kind of saves up his like the shock factor for when a
Does
kid
Quentin
a
Tarantino ever
kid
save up his shock factor?
No, he does.
accidentally
And
gets
that's,
shot in the face?
that's a really important thing
really
because Quentin Tarantino and a lot of filmmakers that have finally figured out how to use violence uses violence as a punctuation mark.
Here we go.
It's the end when the violence happens because every act has got all these little sub acts within it. You have these peaks and you have these valleys. The peaks are almost always explosions of violence in Quentin Tarantino's movies, but they're only after he's lulled you into a false sense of security with dialogue. So it's this nice little 1-2 punch, and I thought of that just now as Bruce Willis's boxer character comes up. It's just this perfect way to
Butch.
lull
Butch,
you
yep.
into a sense of security, and then be like, oh, by the way, fuck you.
By the way, so this shot we'll actually have on screen for probably almost a minute.
Yeah,
with
I
him not
love the
saying
reserve
anything.
that Quentin Tarantino at the time. But again, he's very young. He's not even 30 at this point, I don't think. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
We see him; he looks very young.
Yeah, well, Bruce Willis looks very. Oh yes, in the movie.
Yeah.
you're right.
He picks out the coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So to have that kind of reserve to hold on a shot for as long as you are, without much happening, is very confronting to an audience, and was confronting to audiences at the time.
Oh, and actually,
Well, I think it makes you feel the
notice
tension
this.
of the scene
Oh,
you,
yeah.
Before
you
it
feel
happens,
tense.
I agree.
the camera's going to slightly tilt towards the left. Sorry, pan towards the left. Let's try and get our terms in order here.
Let's do.
Right when Marcellus Wallace decides to hand forward the out of focus
I look forward to
money
seeing this.
with the open envelope, but you'll watch the shot as it slowly moves. Let's see.
Is
Here
it
goes.
anticipatory or is it after the fact?
There you go. No, it's going right
yeah,
now.
I can totally see
very,
it.
very, 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 very little bit.
So that's someone really carefully adjusting
Yep.
if it's a
Yep.
geared head, that tiny gear.
Right. And then the envelope should come out any moment.
I have never... Now, that could have been the film moving a little bit because they have to apply a stabilization to it after the fact.
Well, he holds it there, and then he'll bring it back.
Okay.
He will bring it
I've never
back.
noticed it my whole time watching
Yeah.
this movie. What caused you to notice that?
The framing.
Okay.
Because once again, you have this little anxious, uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have a little tug of war with the money for a moment, and then the shot should go back, if I remember correctly.
Let's notice right now how cool it is that this is a point of view shot, but it's not from either of the characters' point of view. Bruce Willis isn't making eye contact
You're a
with the
third
camera.
person at the table.
Yeah, you're like Marcellus's literal right-hand man.
Yep. Well, I think that's one of the most interesting things about this movie is that every piece of the movie brings you into the story.
It's very
Like
inclusive.
you feel, I mean, not like personally as you're a character, but you feel as though you're watching it as kind of like an outsider.
And that was, so I keep coming back to Scorsese because in a way he's very inspirational to Quentin Tarantino, but in another way they're almost contemporaries. Because they were telling the same kinds of crime dramas at the same time, which is so unheard of considering their disparity in age. That is something that Martin Scorsese wanted to do with Mean Streets. He was watching a movie, like a gangster movie in the 50s, and I want to say he was watching it with his dad, or maybe just some friend of his. And there'd be a scene where the gangsters go into the back room to talk about all their fun gangster shit, and the camera doesn't follow them. The camera doesn't show that. And Martin Scorsese said, why don't we get to see that? And the person he's with said, well, you'll never get to see that. So when Martin Scorsese made Mean Streets, he made it a point to be like, look, this is what the backroom gangsters talk about. So here's Harvey Keitel talking to Robert De Niro about this stuff. This is all the stuff you've been missing from movies since then. So in a sense, Scorsese started doing that, and now Quentin Tarantino's doing that as well, including us in this world we'd never otherwise be a part of, as upstanding, reputable citizens.
Yeah.
We are.
Here's where we introduce Vincent
Yep.
again,
That's right.
because I believe, Vincent stays at the bar and has that very, very, very uncomfortable run-in with Butch
Yes,
Yep.
for the first time.
he sure does.
We also see his relationship with Marcel too. Marcellus, kind of their close knit.
Yeah, there's
The
a lot to be
relationship
done
with
by just
Marcellus is-
observing.
Yeah.
And I love that the next shot we see, so after they've just murdered someone in their suits with their relatively well-appointed looks, they now show up like this.
They've already been robbed as well.
Uh,
He gave away $1,500.
yes, this is after that.
This is post-robbery.
Yes.
You can tell because the outfits.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, the man that he's talking to right there was originally up for the role that Sam Jackson got. And it was so close.
Really?
So Quentin Tarantino
Poor
gave
guy.
him this role. Yeah.
They're like, oh, you can't be Jules, but
You get to
but
have this role as a bartender.
you
nobody's
can
gonna
man the
remember.
mall bar. You're welcome. This bar that no one comes to.
Yeah, well, it is
clearly.
the middle of the day, so I'd hope nobody's there.
Sure.
Very sad.
It's also
people
a strip
would be
club.
there. Oh, is that? I've never paid attention.
I mean,
There's
a
a
pole
big
right
pole
there.
right behind Butch.
So unless
And
the
notice the
mobsters are
ceiling-
getting on the pole,
The
you
ceiling
know, like
also
they.
happens to be reflective.
That's a very good point. I'd never noticed the actual. I've never been into a strip club.
What's his necklace?
It's an 8-ball.
That's what I thought. Interesting.
Either are you familiar with the idea of palooka?
No.
It's a kind of a derogatory term for a boxer from the 50s. I love that shot. God, I love that tracking shot. That's this beautiful, like, 90-degree track around him on that long lens. It's just, it causes you to pay attention. And again, it only causes you to pay attention because the camera had been static for so much leading up to it. When every motion is deliberate, you actually care. Michael Bay, if you're listening.
Explosion! Explosion! Explosion!
Yeah, Michael Bay, so there's this thing in...
Mark Wahlberg. Explosion!
Do it, Mark! Make something blow up. There's a thing in cinema where you have 3-act structure is very common. Your first act is 20 minutes. Your next act is between 40, and we're talking about a feature that's 2 hours. Your next act is between, let's just say, 60 and 80 minutes, and then your final act or third act is about 20 as well. So that gives you a runtime somewhere between 2 hours and 2.5 hours. Typically, the first act sets everything up. The middle act is where it all starts gelling. By the third act, you have the instant where the hero and the villain meet, and then there's a big explosion of things happening that is the climax of the film. From there, it's the denouement, the gradual falling off of action. If that had been charted as a graph, it would basically look like a big bell curve, where instead of being centered over the middle, it's centered over to the end.
I remember learning about that in school.
Really?
The teacher
The
actually
dramatic
drew a
construction of
giant
the
bell
story.
curve. It's the same with literature. You read
Absolutely.
the first half of the book, then the climax happens, and everything after that is like the resolution. Just the characters either making up or the falling out being permanent or whatever, what have you.
Yep.
The end.
Yeah, it's very
Notice
standard
his,
story structure.
His Speed Racer T-shirt. How dope is that?
This guy is just great.
Look at
Period.
his shoes on the pedestal.
Do you know
on
what's
the wall.
also excellent about this particular shot is that we get to see what's happening, but we
In the
don't
mirror.
even get Vincent's angle. We just understand what's happening off camera. Like I just think it's such a fun thing when a shot can tell you by you editing it in your head. By the way, if you ever have a chance to see a movie like this in the theater, go there, sit in the first 5 or 6 rows. You have to move your head to create a scene out of this shot. Because if you just stay looking at Vincent the whole time, you don't get half the scene. You have to physically move your head to look at Lance in the bottom right-hand corner when you're watching it.
Exactly. I was saying you can also see him in the mirror, of
Yes,
course, and
and
see
it's
his facial
so
expression
fun.
and what he's doing.
It's a different movie entirely when you see a movie like this in the theater.
What year would you say this movie is set?
It's set in the present day.
The
At
present
the
day
time,
of when this is so the 90s.
Yeah.
To the 90s.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't see
94.
anything that's... You know what I found out recently is that Terminator 2, which was shot in 1991, was supposed to be taking place in 1995. Because it was supposed to be like 2 years or so before Judgment Day at the time, which was 1997.
It's very random. It's a very random time. It's very specific.
Well,
you know?
it's not arbitrary, though, because
Yeah,
they
of
had a
course.
specific deadline that they had to make it work so that it would meet up with Edward Furlong's aged character. There's an important detail. So I was watching this recently with my girlfriend, and she was mentioning that
Hi, Jordan.
she was mentioning that she didn't quite understand why Mia has an overdose later And it's because the cocaine was not put into a balloon,
yeah.
which is standard.
Which I
He
always
put it
think
into a baggie.
it's
Or
like
the heroin.
foreshadowing.
The heroin
Right,
is not
the
put
heroin.
into a balloon.
I love moments in movies like that when you hear them and you're like, foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is going to come into play later, and I'm going to feel smart for realizing it.
If you want a trick
Yeah.
for ever understanding a movie better than you ever thought before, just pay attention every time there's a close-up of something.
Mm-hmm.
If you see a close-up, that is the filmmaker saying, pay attention to this.
We're about to
It
get a
will
whole-
matter.
We're about to get a whole bunch of
close-ups.
close-ups.
We are. Now, in this instance, it's because that's the montage of being able to show, what this process
Drugs.
is. It is important to know that he is getting a drug. But in the example I was thinking of most recently, in the diner scene, there is only one close-up, and it's the gun. It's when she slaps the gun down on the table. That means this is now escalating. Pay attention. They're not bluffing.
Stop texting. Stop
Yeah,
reading.
stop texting. Something's about to happen, man.
Don't call your mom right now. It's fine. You need to pay attention to this scene.
Yep.
It's about to get real.
And that's
Here's
the
where,
other
of
thing.
course,
I also love his bolo tie, I have to say. I just think that that's like...
We are of differing opinions, but it really matches his character
Well, I
well.
just really like. I mean, I don't really like John Travolta as an actor. He just bothers me. Like Grease is the kind of movie that I would have loved if John Travolta was not in it.
Wow.
I just
I don't think I've ever heard
really
something
don't
like
like
that.
him very much.
No, you really
but I do
don't.
say in this movie he does a pretty good job, and he rocks the bolo tie.
I recently watched Phenomenon. That's on Netflix currently,
Mm-hmm.
low to anyone who tries to watch it, and it's not. I'm sorry, but that's a really fun movie, and I
It's a
think,
really gross spoon.
yeah, that's a
Yeah,
crack
heroin
spoon.
spoon.
Heroin
Mm-hmm.
spoon. This is an example of rear projection. So he was just driving in front of a movie screen that had that projected on it.
Right, which I actually note later when Butch is in the cab.
Yeah,
When they're driving,
you know
it's
what?
black
Really
and white
bad.
and the outside. Yeah.
Yep.
It's so great because when I watched this as a child, it was on VHS and it was a full screen version. So with full screen and directors like Quentin Tarantino who love their close-ups, imagine chopping off the left and the right of this. That's just a shot of his head. There's nothing else. Oh my God. You two probably don't know what the difference between full screen and letterbox is because you haven't had to deal with that.
No,
we
no,
did.
we did.
We did.
We
Okay,
did.
you were
Yeah,
still
my
cognizant
Rugrats-
of it
my
at the
My
time.
Rugrats
Yeah,
videos
come
were all
on.
full screen.
Well, yeah, but
We're
they
young,
Were shot
we're not
that
that
way.
young.
But they were shot that way. I'm talking about like renting a movie from Blockbuster and only getting half of
No,
it
I
because
know.
it's the full screen. That was something you
That was a
experienced?
problem that I've
Yeah.
experienced in my life. There was
Yeah.
Blockbuster, like a couple of minutes down the street from my family. It was an issue.
And it's not anymore. Now we have aspect ratios and TVs that match roughly. But at the time, it was so frustrating whenever I was working at Blockbuster. I also worked at Target. When people would bring me the full screen versions of movies they wanted to watch, and I'd say, now, do you want the full screen or do you want to be able to see the whole movie? And they'd say, well, I think I want to see the whole movie. And all right, I'm going to go get you the letterbox version.
Because when you do full screen, it crops it.
It does. It just cuts everything
It's like
out.
zooming in.
It's
It just
ridiculous.
doesn't work
That's why they call it
properly.
pan and scan. They used to have a thing where they'd actually, in this instance, a pan and scan version would follow Vincent on the left, and then as he moved over, if the camera didn't, they would move the little window with him, and it would seem like it would make the camera look like it's moving.
I also just love this scene.
Also, actually, notice how she just has lipstick on?
Yeah? Does she not later?
I believe she doesn't, and then she does again, and then she doesn't again.
So she's all over the place.
Yeah, so we'll have to pay attention, because right now she has lipstick
I
on.
gotta tell you, continuity errors are of no interest to me at all. I know they're enjoyable to spot, but they distract me. I really want to enjoy the story that's
I
trying to be
agree.
told. I know that
I'm a
IMDb is
story
huge on the
person.
goofs,
Yep.
but I've never cared to catalog them. I will notice them, but I'll try not to let them bother me. I also like that she was giving all these directions intuitively, knowing that he
Yep.
was saying things that she couldn't hear.
Well, I feel like this just sets the scene for who she is as a character.
Which is great, because in this instance, she's someone who really wants control over this man.
She's also married to Marcellus Wallace.
Well, I think she's
So of
also
course she
used
would.
to having control over men.
Absolutely.
I think that's very much what she's experienced in her life, as far as because she's beautiful and because she's smart, clearly, and because she has money and power.
And horrible design taste.
I will say also that
Carpet.
she is...
I'm sorry, carpet really.
Carpet with all
You have
that white.
a multi-million-dollar mansion in the hills of LA, and you choose to get beige carpet.
Also, remember that
They're with
right
you.
now, Vincent is extremely high.
Yes, and look
And-
how well reserved he is, considering he's on heroin, which I've been told is something that just feels euphoric.
Well, I think
Like,
it also
I'm amazed he's doing anything.
Yeah, but I mean, he's probably also an avid heroin user.
So it's just a new baseline for him.
just as she is probably an avid coke user, given
It's
that she
likely.
has this whole setup next to her little.
What do you think those awards are on the left?
Were those meant to be awards?
They were just like crystal.
They look like random
Yeah.
trinkets.
Oh, it looked like there was some sort of writing on the base.
I do
Oh.
like their taste in art.
I will look forward to watching this again and seeing if there is something on there. Quentin Tarantino, he loves the feats. He's got a real thing. But it's a great shot and a wonderful introduction to a character that we don't yet know.
Let's go out. Boom.
And I love that there's no need to explain that now this is Mia Wallace. We obviously get it because we're not idiots.
And now she is smoking as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then she never stops.
No,
Right.
just a chimney in this movie.
Yeah.
Jack Rabbit
it's
Slims
impressive.
was not a real place.
I want to go there.
It doesn't exist. It was made
Don't
for
be a
this
square.
movie. Yeah, don't be a
Don't be a-
rectangle.
Yeah, that's what I always say too. I'm like, it's not a square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's all those little. I love that
Yeah.
shot. That's such a wonderful establishing shot for this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the
Focus
thing that
pull.
most impresses me in this film, in all films, is confidence in a filmmaker, where they say, "No, this is the shot that I want. I've storyboarded it this way. This is what I need to show." And the fact that this was most of the budget. They had $8 million to make this. $5 million went to getting the actors. By the way, making a movie like this for $8 million is practically impossible these days.
Unless you're a genius.
Unless you're just a genius with unlimited funds.
Yeah.
You know, like this, what's that movie, The Room? That one that was
Oh, with Brie Larson?
No, not that one.
That's
no,
that
sorry.
one.
No, this is like I'm not going to get it right, so I'm not going to bother talking about it. But yes, I've heard that's a very good movie.
Me too.
But I bet
I
that
haven't seen
costs
it yet.
just as much, if not more, as this
It's in
did.
A Room. But she won an
Exactly.
Academy Award for that. I don't think anyone had ever heard of her before that.
Yeah, I hadn't. But the fact that this is all set is just astonishing to me. The amount of detail that went in it, like the dance floor is a tachometer, like in a car, counting the RPMs, and was that Richard Lewis or Jerry? That was Richard Lewis. No, Richard Lewis. I don't remember that guy's name. I feel so bad. He's Rudy Tooty. Oh, Rudy.
No.
We got some great
This is, of
Buddy
course,
Holly there.
the high, very, very high Vincent walked way past his table.
Oh my God. No, he hasn't gone past his
Well,
table
No,
not
not
yet.
yet, but he
will.
does.
But you're right. He
But he
really.
will.
I got to pay more attention to
He's-
his acting.
He
You're
gets
right.
so
Yeah.
lit that
He
he's
is really
passing
high.
the table.
You can tell because he's just so overwhelmed by all of this, like just so out of place.
And see, in that instance, I actually just thought he was just scoping it out. But yeah,
Here
you're
we
right.
go.
He's
No,
super
That's
high.
the table.
No, he's super high.
Look at him.
Look at him stagger
Yeah,
through
that is
it.
the
Like,
walk.
I hope he doesn't walk like that sober.
There's
That
the
would be a little concerning about his health.
Oh God, I love watching this movie with
Yeah.
that. With that.
Well, they're both high is the best part, you know,
well,
like
she's
on
on
different
Yeah, but
drugs.
so
Coke is
Yeah.
just, you know.
just be energetic.
She's not a very energetic person. Though.
No,
She's not. And
that's
so
why-
imagine how much more dour
that's why
she
she
is not
smokes.
medicated.
She smokes to calm those nerves that she got high with.
I mean,
Oh.
I imagine for Vincent, it kind of feels like he's on like a weird trip.
This is also
like
the
what
same cigarette that
world
she
has
had
he
in the
just
car.
entered?
Yeah.
She's a slow smoker. It's okay. She likes to savor it. Maybe it's American spirit. I don't know.
But I mean, that means she lit it. She not only walked into the restaurant with it lit, but also got a table, which she had a reservation for, and walked all the way to the table and is still smoking the same cigarette.
It's pretty impressive,
That is
actually.
incredible.
Yeah, she's really saving Marcellus a lot of money on the whole. You know,
She is.
she's making those cigarettes last like she's in the Depression.
That's him ordering the steak immediately.
Prohibition. You gotta be
A
careful.
Douglas
She
Sirk
gets.
steak.
She also gets the $5 shake, which apparently is
It's delicious.
potentially worth the $5.
Yep.
Well, I gotta say, a $5 shake now is a steal.
Yeah, I was gonna. Well, we were watching this yesterday, you
Like,
know,
yeah.
many moons ago. We were like, how much is that in today's money? But it's probably all of like $10 shake. Would that be?
Great question. I guess a $10 shake would give us the same reaction.
Yeah,
in this
like
day.
what?
If she'd
what
order a
monetary
$10 steak in a
value?
2017 version of this movie, we would feel the same Vincent.
That's
does.
what monetary value could we assign to the shake that would
$10
make
would
us
be too
feel
much.
as indignant as Vincent feels that
I
she's
would want there to
spending
be bigger
$5
than
whole
a $10
dollars.
shake.
Here,
Absolutely.
Cute.
here we go. She's
Or at least
rolling.
Bailey's, something.
He's
Yeah.
rolling some tobacco, and he's like, "Can you?" Yeah.
Do you
She's
see
like,
that
"Can
she
you roll me one of
smokes?
those?"
She smokes a brand. Can you see what they are?
I cannot.
It's a brand that was made for the movie. It's called Red Apple. Red Apple. And
Is that like the Angry Orchard of cigarettes?
I
No,
mean, actually, it
actually,
kind of looks like it. It's
It
a little
sounds-
weird.
It sounds like Lucky Strike
Why?
because Lucky Strike, the box looks just like you
You
would.
can't buy Lucky Strike cigarettes in America anymore.
I know, but if I had to rename Lucky Strike, I'd rename them Red Apples based on their packaging.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but not like that.
The packaging for this cigarette is creepy. It's got this worm with a face coming out of an apple. He's creepy as hell. They come up in a lot of other Quentin Tarantino movies, actually. It's his kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. David Wasco, I think, is responsible
Do you
for
think
creating
Quentin Tarantino owns a pack of
I bet he does.
his coined cigarettes?
I bet he
And are
does.
they proprietary blend of tobacco?
A fine
or
question you're asking. I don't know.
is that
I
her real
wonder.
hair? I know it's a random question, but is
Actually,
that
I don't
a
think
wig
it
or
is.
is that her real hair?
I don't think that is her real
'Cause
hair.
she's blonde in real life.
But I'm looking at Vincent's hair, and it looks pretty much like it could be real.
It does.
Like, I'm seeing it, and it looks like it goes right. Not that I know what makes a good wig, but it seems like the kind of thing where,
Well, you can see his widow's peak,
yeah.
which makes me believe that it's real. or at least extensions.
I see.
Because on her hair, it's very much like it covers her whole deal. But on his hair, you can see his actual
Yeah, I
hairline.
can totally see that.
And if it was a wig, I don't know why they'd give him a widow's peak, because I don't think a receding hairline necessarily gives
It's not the best look.
gravitas
But you know
to a
what?
character.
That's the other thing is, in the movie, maybe he's a hero to us, or he's some manner of anti-hero to us. But in real life, he's just a two-bit thug. Like, he's just wearing a suit and doing regular jobs that a hitman does.
It's true.
So he's not any better or any worse. So, he doesn't need to look that heroic.
No.
But that's the thing, is you can watch this movie as a very young child and be like, this guy's so cool. Wow. And the same with Reservoir
And then you
Dogs.
realize
Like,
it's John Travolta.
they're bad.
And you feel a little bit
Aw.
robbed for me, because you just hate John Travolta on principle. Sorry, John Travolta.
poor John. Can't
I just
catch a
like his
break.
face. It's just his face.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm not seeing what you're seeing, but I can totally get it. I have actors like that.
He's just so smarmy. He's like, oh, I'm John Travolta. Like, I ordered a steak because I want a steak, and I'm
Is
going
it
to
his
flirt
close
with you.
set eyes?
It's just everything about his face.
Because they are rather close set.
They're close set, and then his whole face is just very broad and round, and he's this little cleft chin thing. I don't know. He is just
But the
not
bolo
my
tie's
favorite.
okay by you.
I'm a fan of a good bolo tie.
I wonder how many shakes they had to make this day.
A lot, hopefully. Hopefully Quentin Tarantino drank all of them.
Oh, I can't imagine that being a fun day for anyone drinking more than one milkshake.
No, but she takes like one sip of it this whole
Well,
time. So.
as an actor, you learn to take very small bites
Yeah.
because you're probably going to be taking them all day, and they actually usually have spit buckets next to them between takes. They can
did
get rid
know
of it. Yeah, it's gross. Kevin Spacey on the commentary for Usual Suspects talks about his trick for continuity when he has a cigarette. He always holds his cigarettes the same length from the ashes in a movie. So there's never continuity between, like, oh, look how many ashes there are this time. Really brilliant.
That is really brilliant.
Yeah. Not that it's useful anymore.
Do you think the
I
actors
just
in the
find it
movie
easier to
actually
film.
smoke?
Yeah,
All of
yeah,
them?
they have hemp cigarettes if they don't smoke naturally, but otherwise I bet they're real. A lot of times actors are forced to smoke in roles where they're not smokers, so they use
Yeah.
hemp cigarettes. But I've heard they smell awful.
Define hemp.
Hemp is just I can't. I know it's either marijuana is derived from it or it's just it's a weed you can grow, but I know it's cultivated for a lot of things and rope and
Hemp
whatever
cigarettes
else.
are one of them, I guess.
Yeah, I know it's an herb.
He did not know what a vanilla Coke was, and I said he has not experienced true life because vanilla Cokes are delicious.
Yeah, and like a soda fountain, someone who can make you a
Yeah.
nice vanilla Coke. Before Coke came out with
You
vanilla
can get vanilla Coke out of soda machines, though.
Yeah, but that's not the same kind
No,
of vanilla
but you
Coke.
can, though.
You're right. It's finally available.
It is, and
How
it never
exciting.
happened before. And
I
I
prefer
felt
a $5 shake.
With some bourbon.
that sounds great.
Yeah, that should have been our evening's
That should have.
libation.
Yeah. Ice cream.
Notice just
Let's pour the bourbon on the ice cream directly.
Oh, I've done that.
notice
It's delightful.
that she doesn't have the lipstick on anymore that she did have on.
I didn't notice, but
prior.
let's watch.
Let's see. No, she does.
Nope,
I don't
different.
think she does. It looks
She does
really
not.
nude comparatively.
It was very red before.
In theory, she could have applied it and then drank the $5 shake, and now the lipstick's on the straw.
It's possible.
Mm,
Oh wait, no, she hasn't come back
No.
and had her
Powdered
food
her
yet.
nose.
Yeah, she hasn't powdered.
Yeah.
And I love that she powders her nose in the most literal sense.
I know, and I love
Like
that.
that's
I love
such a
that
beautiful.
that's
Oh,
the
and
line.
the little overcranked slow mo here. See, again, that's a confident filmmaker. He knows it's gonna need a little extra moment of surreality
Yeah.
for it. Like that's just I'm gonna do this and it's gonna be great and people are gonna notice, but they're not gonna notice it. I think that is the most fun you can have as a filmmaker is when you can start messing with people's heads.
He just looks confused.
Well, he's still high.
I also thought all the other women in this bathroom don't look an eye to the fact that she just,
Of course not.
I mean, just
They're
goes
in
to show you
LA
what they do
and-
at Jackrabbit Slim's, I guess, on a good old whatever night this is.
Yep.
They're like, oh, I got you my mascara. And she's like, it's time.
And I like that was a mirror shot where we didn't actually. We saw the reflection, but we weren't the mirror.
Yeah.
Oh, Book of Matches there. I just now noticed that. That's their preferred way to light up.
She's a purist. What can Mia say?
I
You
guess
know?
nothing. Oh, they got a really good Marilyn though.
yeah, but she didn't use
They
the book
did.
of
Like,
matches.
that's impressive. She
No.
didn't use the what match?
She didn't use the book of matches because if you remember,
Oh yeah, Vincent lights it
Vincent
for her, doesn't
lit
he?
it for her,
Yeah.
You're right.
as you should when you give someone a cigarette.
One must
Polite thing to
always
do.
hold open doors for ladies and light their cigarettes if they insist on smoking. Always.
Always.
Look at the way that little bit of his hair is catching that rim light. That little bit of white on his hair now. It looks so strange. I can't
getting
take my
old.
eyes off it.
He's getting old. She's aging him.
So this is more cross-cutting, very akin to the diner scene. In fact, I haven't paid enough attention to compare the two, but I imagine they follow the exact same shots,
Probably.
roughly. She's a little off axis, he's a little on. But they both have the right eye line. Oh, but now we've gone to a wide.
Right.
Why do you think he would show the wide there? We were previously on a medium on her. And now wide over the shoulder. I'm curious. Does anyone have any thoughts on why these shots
I
are
don't
being
know.
chosen?
I'd have to hear the line that she says.
Isn't she
on
talking about
that
her
shot.
joke? Isn't she
But
talking
would
about the
you?
joke that she tells? Or that she doesn't tell?
Yeah, it could be foreshadowing.
So maybe just to give context to like the
Yes.
whole ridiculousness of the scene, you know, she's sitting there, she's talking about this joke that she told one time on a TV pilot that made her 15 minutes of famous.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, I didn't even get to do that.
you know, just to give I mean, this is a very ridiculous environment to be in.
It is. That's true.
To kind of give context to the ridiculousness, I guess.
The joke is hilarious.
It is a pretty good joke.
I'm not a fan of the joke. It's really mean. Squishes his own child
I
for the
know.
sake of a punchline.
Catch up.
Not a fan. We could have found all sorts of ways to make jokes that weren't at the expense of poor little tomatoes.
I don't like tomatoes, so
Really?
I'm okay with
Tomatoes
it.
are amazing.
I hate tomatoes.
There's ketchup on that table, FYI. Be careful.
I don't like ketchup either,
Oh,
so it's
I'm
fine.
so sorry.
It's fine.
Do you like cocktail sauce?
No, I mean sometimes, but that has horseradish in it, which I do like.
I'm
So
not
that's a
even
bit
familiar with
different.
what cocktail sauce is.
Ketchup and horseradish.
Oh.
Horseradish.
That's horse rubbish.
Horseradish.
You know, his bolo tie looks like an eye. It's freaking me out now.
It's the
I've
Illuminati.
never
Illuminati.
noticed it before.
I think we had the same response to that.
She's got fine...
I wish I had the lung capacity to smoke as much as they did. You know, like, I feel like I'd look so much cooler all the time.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing that makes you look cooler than smoking.
Yeah, lung cancer is very trendy these days, I hear. I'm also very ashamed that she doesn't touch her $5 shake because it cost her $5.
She
and
actually
clearly
just
it
played
was
with the
delicious.
cherry. Like, that was
Yeah.
all she did, didn't she?
Well, I think that was the whole point, was to, you know, she's a feminine woman who likes to put her lips close to some cherries.
Ah, well, that's the other thing, that there's a lot of sexual subtext to this scene, depending on how you care to, whose lens you care to view it through. You can either look at it as her, where she's just toying with this
Well,
guy
I
for
think
fun.
it's very cat and mouse game, you know, she wants him to fall in love with her so that she can not be in love with him.
I can see that. I can see that being a whole lot of fun for someone with no soul.
Yep. But that is a very good Marilyn.
Yeah, no, it really is very impressive.
Very good Marilyn. I
And
wonder
she
what
doesn't have to
looks
do
like
much, just
normally,
look
yeah.
like Marilyn and stand around and...
Yep.
God, that looks like a rubber mask
It
in this light.
does.
I've never noticed that. I
Feels
think
like
it might
he should
be
be
the
on
HD
like the
transfer.
Addams Family.
Yeah.
Addams Family.
Oh, man. That's some snappy comeback right there.
Yeah. Very snappy. Oh, she's like, I want to dance.
Yep.
It's happening.
So there is a dance scene in a movie. I don't remember which scene he copied, but they're basically hitting the same scene as another movie. And I'm so disappointed that I can't remember what it is, so everyone can go look it up. But you can look up, if you Google Pulp Fiction dance scene original or ripoff, you'll probably find the scene they ripped it off of.
Do you know the actors that are in the scene?
What do you mean? In the movie?
In the
it's been
movie
ripped
of
off?
the scene
I
that
have
was
no
ripped
idea.
off.
No idea. I've myself not seen it. I've read about it recently, and I meant to make a note in my head that I'd probably need to regurgitate that info at some point, so I should remember it. But evidently, I didn't take myself seriously. I do like that this is all just... This is a dance scene. This is not a musical, but now we have a dance scene. And
that's
nobody
real,
complains.
yeah.
Like, it's not like, hey, I didn't come to see a musical, because these are very good dancers, and you want to watch someone doing something well.
I read a quote recently from Quentin Tarantino who said that, you know, people were like, you just had this dance scene so we could see John Travolta dance.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, no, the dance was written before John Travolta was cast.
I
But
heard that as well.
happy accident,
Yep.
it was John Travolta, and now he's dancing. I also like that they're matching. Like, they're very
Oh, yeah.
color coordinated.
Yeah, you're right. And, you know, they really gave Mia an iconic look.
They did.
It's not anything over the top,
It's not feminine.
or anything,
Yeah.
but it really works for her.
Well, because she's cool and edgy, and she's very
Yeah.
her own
Yeah, I agree.
deal.
And I love that the handheld camera brings us right up with them.
Yeah.
Like, this is such a good handheld camera. This isn't Steadicam. You can tell by the jerks left and right. Typically, you can't get that on a Steadicam. They get set leveled out. So it's just really impressive camera work that kind of draws you in. And I imagine it was fairly improvisational. I know that Quentin Tarantino at some point was just yelling out dances for them to do because they knew them well enough. So he'd just be like, okay, Watusi. Okay, the twist. Those are the only 2 dances I know. There's the monkey. That's the 3rd dance I know.
The scuba one.
The scuba, the swim.
Yep.
That's the swim. So
The
I know 4
eye
dances.
thing,
Thank you.
you
I don't know
know,
what that's
the
called.
peace sign.
I don't know what that's called.
I don't know what it's called either.
Oh, my dad had those socks.
My dad
the
has
gold
those socks
toe
too.
socks.
Yep.
That's such a dad sock.
That's such a
I
dad
do
sock.
have those socks. Thank you very much.
Oh no.
You're not a dad, but congratulations on your sock choices.
You really
I do
socked
not
it
have
to
those
him.
socks. I'm wearing fuzzy socks right now.
Fuzzy socks
So-
with some manner of pattern on them.
I don't know. They're
Looks-
from Target.
Yeah, this is a very sexual scene.
It is.
It's impressively so.
I mean, they have very sexual tension. Their whole
Oh,
relationship
yeah.
is very.
And that's
Very tense.
and now the cool thing after this is once the scene dissolves out, I think it fades actually,
Yeah.
which is very rare. You don't normally fade in the middle of a sequence because it's very final. But that now says so much time has passed.
And
I
she has
love
the trophy,
And
too.
they are now
Yep.
such good friends.
Yep.
Effectively. There's this moment that Mia shuts him down that I love so much because he thinks he can match her in terms of familiarity and comfortability. So when he says he's going to go take a piss, and she's like, that's a
Too much
little
information.
more
Yeah.
information, you can see him get shut down. Watch that smile fade. It's awesome. It's such a beautiful moment of just like social
She's
context.
still in charge.
Yeah, oh yeah, look
It's
at
still
her.
her deal.
Look at how he's waiting for cues still.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's these are actors that you just want to watch because you're engaged.
There's a line.
Little. Okay, now so put yourself in the sense of you're an actor on this set. Remember, they're shooting 50D. It's
Crushed.
a nighttime scene. It takes a ton of light. They're doing everything they can not to be squinting. So I was reading recently that they shot with 4 12K HMIs pointed up at the ceiling for this light, just bouncing the light back down because it's such a big space. Which is why, God, it looks, even though it's super bright, it still looks overblown. Like they didn't even underexpose because there just was so much light. And so I'm just astonished every time I see these actors not squinting like Clint Eastwood for the whole scene.
Only Clint Eastwood can squint like Clint Eastwood.
It's true. Nobody squints quite like that guy.
No.
He's Dirty Harry, you know?
Spaghetti westerns.
Have you had a chance to watch many of those?
I have not. No.
Okay. There's certainly some worth watching.
I know my grandma is like a very large Clint Eastwood fan.
Oh, yeah?
So yeah.
Okay.
I mean, more for like his face and the way he,
Oh,
you know,
okay. So a
looks
fan
as
of
a
Clint
man. You
Eastwood.
know, like she's a fan of Clint Eastwood. I don't blame her.
Yeah, I could see it at some
Yeah.
point. Clint Eastwood was bringing it. Now he's debating chairs.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's amazing how that lamp all the way back left definitely looks like an IKEA lamp.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing. IKEA took that style and said, how can we make it affordable? That's what they do.
It would make it look like shit and square.
Yeah, I don't like that those lamps at IKEA have only one light in the middle of them. Like,
That
it doesn't
sounds
make sense.
not very-
Like, why not make 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, we don't have to have them. That table stir is weird. Like,
Yeah.
the legs on that table are freaky.
I just love this like pep talk he gives to himself in his
Yeah.
bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Just long enough for her to OD.
Was it also
Yeah.
cements the fact that like yes he is falling in love with her, yes he does have
Mm-hmm.
feelings for her at this point.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Now, I vividly remember reading the screenplay for this when I was in high school. I've just read screenplays compulsively. And I remember there's a line where he says, she tries to light it like Vincent did. So in this moment, she does this little weird light move where it lights the lighter, and she's really proud of herself.
She also
And
plays with the lighter.
yeah, yeah. And it says, the screenplay actually says, what do you know? She did it. Like, there's this little editorializing on that. And so that's her stage direction where she's like, yay. I just love those little sides. Like,
She's
you
a great
can't-
actress,
Yeah,
Uma Thurman,
yeah.
in this.
You know, it's interesting because she obviously feels like she is close enough with Vincent to do his drugs without his permission.
No, I think she feels like she's in control, and that if she does his drugs without permission, no one's gonna get mad at her because her husband will literally throw him out of a window.
I think they're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both of you said the same thing different ways. Oh, I don't like that Vincent just buttoned his bottom button.
No, you're
That's
not
so
supposed to
gauche.
do that.
Don't do that, man.
Top button, unbutton it when
Oh,
you
it's a
sit
three
down.
button. It's a three button. It's a three
It's
button.
a 3 button.
okay.
I didn't see.
All right.
I'm sorry, Vincent.
Social pass.
You're
We're sorry.
dead. You're not real, but
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
We're sorry for that. I also love her jacket.
Yeah.
I kind of want one.
Well, that's Vince's.
No, that one, the leather one. I mean the velvet one, not the overcoat.
Oh, okay.
Here you go. Here's where she snorts the heroin.
Jesus
Which is a
Christ.
great life.
I don't know if
I
you
also
can
love
survive that.
with
You
this
can't.
acting.
Well,
that you
EOD.
Yeah.
can see the panic on her face.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, and
she
the
knows
zoom in and then
what
zoom
is
in
happening.
track.
Yeah.
The zoom and
that
track.
was a zoom in and track in. That
Yeah.
wasn't a vertigo zoom.
Yep.
Oh
But see,
God,
here's
the little
blood.
bubble.
But here's the blood. You know, he's pulling his punches, but then here it is in
Yeah.
this little amount. But it's so powerful
Yeah,
because
it's just like the camera moves.
it's
It
so
gets
painful.
worse.
Preserve it.
This whole time you're like, no,
Right
no,
there.
no, no, no.
Oh God, it's that little bit of like I don't even
Of
want to know what's
bile.
coming out,
It's like
but it's just
milky,
the worst thing.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Ah.
So what do? Take her to the drug dealer's house. Logic.
It's totally logical. Oh God, all that stuff. I don't even
Oh,
want to know what it really
fingers.
was.
It's like cream of rice.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
could have been some sort of cream of wheat. Is cream of rice a thing?
Like the
Oh
the
God, I love that
wattage
lighter.
at the
shot. I
bottom.
love that shot. All those lights, it's so surreal. And the
Also,
way he drives calls
When
so
are
much
the-
attention to
when are the
himself.
streets of LA ever that empty?
3 a.m. I could see that. Especially we don't know what neighborhood they're in.
That's true.
Yeah.
I know where-
I've seen plenty of
Where
like,
we lived in
the
LA,
main drag.
it
you
was
know?
never that empty.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they're supposed to be actually, or where
Oh.
Vince's
This
house.
guy's
Here are
having
the
a great
longest
night.
rings
Yeah.
I've ever seen. Someone smashes the bird cage on his head. Here we go. Boom.
Blammo. I like how Lance reacts like that looked like it
He's
hurt.
like, oh,
Because he's pretty high.
we better start smoking again. That looks like it was a bit of a.
He's eating a cereal that hadn't been made for about 20 years, Fruit Brute.
Is that
Quentin
like a
Tarantino kept a box from the 70s.
really?
Yeah.
Gross.
Or
Like,
maybe
is-
he had one relocated, I'm not sure.
Is that like a Fruity Pebbles?
It was part of the cereals that were like the monster cereals. Frankenberry
Frankenberry and
is
Blueberry
the seasonal.
Crunch.
Yes, those are the seasonal Halloween versions. That Fruit Brute is the non-seasonal version that could have been on shelves all
Ah.
year. So,
Blueberry Crunch is a pretty good cereal.
well, they bring it back now.
It's not a balanced breakfast, but it's a pretty good cereal.
Yeah, suffice to say, no cereal you pour into a bowl that's not colored, natural colors.
Something I like about
Yeah.
this particular drug dealer, compared to the other drug dealers I've dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
is
He basically looks like
after he
Jesus.
listens to Vince's dilemma, he says, "I don't know you. Don't call me. Don't come here." and
Prank
hangs
color,
up.
prank color.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is fair, frankly. There was no implied agreement that if there's ever trouble with drugs that he sold him, that he could bring it back for a fix.
No, nor do I know why he would go to the drug dealer's house.
He has nowhere else, He just got back
They named
into
him a
town.
hospital.
He's been in Amsterdam for a while. He doesn't have a big social network that he can rely on right now.
Drug
And plus,
dealer.
he probably just saw him today, so it's like,
He's fresh in his head.
yeah. But this is a great shot. Okay, so watch.
Yeah, let's-
Two cars
Yeah.
are used to make this happen. That one
off
that drives
screen.
all the way past
And
and
then
then
the
past
crash.
the street into a dark alley, and then the one that was already there has been crashed already. I just think it's really well done.
You guys see the tracks. Look at the car tracks
Yeah.
in the grass.
Yep.
There they are.
He's like, no. Do you think his
Now, hang
dream-
on, wait.
God, that
let's
must be
let's
great.
take a look at this car though for a moment.
Yeah.
Notice how beat the car is,
Mhm.
and how it's under the wood and the bricks. But of course, he is going to drive that car in a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's a fix-it ticket.
That's a little mind blowing to me.
Yeah, I.
Well, I mean,
that's a
compare. I don't
totally
even know how he
valid
backs
point.
it out of there.
Well,
But
no,
look at the hood.
we don't know. Yeah, boy, the hood did look like it got popped up.
It
Didn't
was
it?
popped up quite a bit. Now, and then of course when we see the shot of them going home, it's that same from the hood into the car shot, which is a little shocking because the hood obviously must be somewhat down at that point.
Yeah.
But we'll come to that in a moment.
I'm sure we will. So I love this particular scene. This is a scene that I've studied quite a bit. I really enjoy just everything that's happening in it. You feel like you're really an observer that's
Oh, sorry.
active.
Look at the two board games in the bottom of Operation
and
Life,
Yeah.
which is quite funny because this is technically an operation of life.
If I didn't know better, I'd think someone was trying to foreshadow. But I do know better, and he was. So, but I love that this shot you don't get to see into it. You just had the vignette from the doorway, which makes it so much more stressful. Like
'Cause you can't help.
you
can't
can't help.
help.
You can't
Yeah,
even
you
see
can't do
to offer
anything.
advice. So it's just very strenuous to see that. And Quentin Tarantino did this earlier, where he put, when they were talking about meeting Mia, they put Vincent and Jules in the hallway through a doorway. Another instance of just being a distance, and you're not privy to this level of
Close
intimacy
enough to
with
know,
those
but not
characters.
close enough to do anything.
Yeah, like you'll be able to observe, but that's about it. You're not part of this, man.
I also love the dialogue and things. I feel like it's exactly how a normal person would react
Oh yeah.
to this happening
Yes.
in your living room. Also, like they have Christmas lights on their chandelier. I just noticed that.
I'm not sure what time this movie is supposed to take place at, time of year.
I
but,
think that they're just the kind of people that have Christmas lights on their chandelier.
You're probably right.
That's the vibe I get from
Just-
their whole.
They haven't taken them down since the first Christmas they put them up 3 years ago. 4.
Or they might have saw them at Costco and been like, oh, they're on sale, 50% off. Let's put them on our chandelier. That'll be great.
So there is the thing I was talking about where Quentin Tarantino just ripped off dialogue wholesale from someone. There was a scene in a documentary that was unreleased, documentary being in air quotes, Scorsese made, and it was in 1979, and it was some character from the movie Taxi Driver. If you've seen it, it's the character who offers guns to Robert De Niro's character in that hotel room. And that was a real kind of guy who did that, so he wasn't really acting.
Sorry,
And,
not to interrupt, but I do love that the magic marker that she gets looks like blood.
oh, hey. Yeah, big red one.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Stabbing motion.
People
3
call
times?
this the reverse vampire slaying. Because you stab someone to bring them back to life.
Yeah, I feel that. Sorry, I didn't mean to. But I
No,
just
no,
wanted
no.
to
That's
point
what
that out. I thought it
this
was
is.
very
We're all
interesting.
fourth dimensional thinkers. We can do this. So in the movie where he took the dialogue wholesale, it was basically just listening to this account of the kid from Taxi Driver who sold the guns talk about this time where he was in this exact situation. And he said, and we had to go find this medical book, and we had to get this shot of adrenaline, and we had to do it, and you have to bring it down in a stabbing motion. Like, these are lines lifted verbatim and put into the script. And I bet at the time Quentin Tarantino did it as an homage that he thought nobody would ever catch. And then eventually that documentary was unleashed and people saw it and they're like, holy shit, this seems really similar to a scene in a very popular movie.
Yeah.
Pull it out. Pull it out, please.
She's having a rough day, this one.
I've read, I can't find conclusive evidence to this, but I've read that will kill you. That will not bring you back from an OD, that will kill you.
What?
Wasn't it
Adrenaline
like-
straight to the
Are you supposed
heart.
to use like Narcan?
There is a couple of OD drugs that block the opiate receptors so you can start recovering and your
Yeah.
brain doesn't, your heart doesn't die. But I
So this
truly
is bad
don't.
medical advice. Is what I'm hearing.
Yes, don't take your cues from this movie.
Yeah.
Here
If
they're
you
driving.
are ODing, if you OD, you call the police. Or no, you call the hospital.
Here they're driving the car with no crack in the windshield, of course, after being...
Was there a crack in the windshield
Nope,
too?
not at all.
No, I mean when he dragged
Well,
the car.
one would
I didn't
assume
catch
that if you drove a car into bricks and wood, that yes, the chance of your windshield being cracked is very, very, very probable.
But was there?
Not that we could see.
Yeah.
I also love how in this scene, he's talking about how does not say anything if, we do, Marcel will push me down the window, and then she says,
Marcellus.
I will be, Marcellus, I will be in as much trouble as you
I think that's a
if
very
we
telling
found out
line.
that. Like that's,
She knows her
she's
place
not,
in that instance.
Like,
The
she
power
is in
changing.
control, but she's also not on equal levels with her husband. I think that's a very interesting look into what she
I do like...
deals with.
I agree.
I do like later in the movie when Vincent goes into the room with Marcellus after the fight, and they're talking about Butch. She opens the door. Mia opens the door and says,
She's like, I never thanked you for dinner.
"Oh, I never thank you for dinner." Yeah.
Yeah, such a nice offhanded thing that again makes sure that we understand that the continuity. It's a clue for continuity. It's really nice. Also, something to note: Marcellus and Mia never talk to each other.
No.
Ever.
Yeah, I don't think it's that kind of relationship.
Well, I don't think it is either, but it's funny that in the movie that's not even indicated. There's no any sort of back and forth between them. They seem to exist in a symbiotic state, but they don't actually need to talk.
No.
At the very least, we don't need to see
It's
their
a marriage of
conversations.
convenience.
Yeah. But you know what's really fascinating is there are 2 different interracial couples in this movie. Mm-hmm. And that, for 1994, is pretty impressive.
Because it's what the...
So Quentin Tarantino's
Yeah.
character's wife,
Jerry,
Bonnie.
John, what's his name?
God, what is... Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Because they call it the Jimmy situation.
Yeah,
It's the end of
Jimmy.
the act.
Yep.
Yeah,
And his
he's-
wife Bonnie,
His wife
she's-
and Bonnie
yeah.
is black. But we don't actually know that Bonnie is black because all we're seeing... Here's the funniest thing about movies to me. All we're seeing is a depiction of what could happen.
Yeah.
We don't even necessarily know who is imagining that scenario. It could be someone imagining his wife. Maybe in that case, Jules was imagining Jimmy's wife. And Jules imagined that she was black.
It's true.
We don't actually know that Jimmy's wife is black. And that's the fascinating thing to me is that in the world of the cinema, we only know what we're shown. And even then, it's suspect. That's why having an unreliable narrator in a movie is so scary.
Well, I also love that in this movie, too, now we're in a completely different time period, and a completely
Yes.
different, but the only clue Quentin Tarantino gives you is the little kid's name. They say it once and they say, "Oh, Butch,
You're right.
this is this
Yep.
person coming to see you," and that's the only clue.
This movie rewards active watching.
He expects you to remember that. Oh, that guy you saw that one time, his name is Butch.
Here's a question for you.
Sure.
See, every time I watch this movie, although it was released in '94, which means they probably filmed it in '92, '93, potentially '94 as well, I constantly think that the movie takes place in '89 or '90.
Why?
Because for whatever reason, it just feels slightly
Using a cell phone.
dated from '95.
Well, but this scene is dated. I mean, she's
Well,
wearing
not
clothes
this.
that are
Forget
clearly from the
this scene aside.
60s.
It feels dated to the point of 5 years old? 5 years older?
Yeah, 5 years on one hand is not that much, but on the other hand, you know.
There were some technological things that happened between 90 and 95, certainly.
Right.
But I can't see that. But we also grew up 10 years apart in terms of our childhood, so the time you spent in those years is much longer, so you were paying more attention. Just on the scale of a timeline in childhood. Because, from age 0 to age 1, that's your lifetime. So it seems like forever for that time to pass when you're young, and the same thing from age 2 to age 4, you've only double it again. So time is amazing.
See, for me, I kind of feel the opposite, because I feel like in this movie, you watch a movie I don't know if either one of you have seen the movie. Have you ever seen Valley Girl?
The Nicolas Cage
Nicolas
movie.
Cage.
I haven't seen it. I just know the box.
Okay, yeah, but that movie feels so incredibly dated to me. Like, you watch it and you feel like you can't relate to the people because it's completely different. And it's the 90s, and I was born in the 90s. Like, it's not a completely removed time
You were
period.
born in the '90s?
But just the way it was shot, it just feels very dated to me. Whereas this, because the shots are so deliberate and the characters are so real in terms of the dialogue that they speak and the way that they react to things, it feels as though it could be any era.
I agree. And a lot of that is possibly just a quality of filmmaking. Someone who understands that this movie needs to exist beyond its own time. Whereas, I don't remember who directed Valley Girl.
I don't remember who directed it. I know Nicolas Cage is in it.
Nicolas Cage
Yeah.
is first. Well, I have a similar question, and that is, have you seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High? either of you?
Yes, I love that movie.
And Jonah, I'm curious to know what you're making, but I don't think anyone else is going to know what it is when they keep hearing the sounds of it. So.
Oh, I'm watching the audio levels. You can't really hear it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm literally watching.
I can't wait to hear that. So, the Fast Times at Ridgemont High movie.
Spicoli.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have not.
Does
You've
that hold
never
up to
seen
you?
it? Yes, it does.
Let's talk about why versus Valley Girl. They're shot pretty much within a few years of each other.
It is because the characters in Valley Girl,
Okay.
it's centered on this group of girls who are from the Valley, and they're like, oh my god, my name's totally Tiffany, and oh my god, I just totally bought this shirt from Lacoste 3 days ago, and that's very much their character, and the things that the pop culture references that they make, and the way that they act in terms of, oh, I'm gonna wait for him to call, and all these things, the way the guys act and dress within the movie is very, very specific. It's not even that year in the 90s.
Wow.
It's very it's like a time capsule of a movie.
Is Valley Girl the 90s? I always thought it was an 80s movie.
I think it might be an 80s movie.
I just see young Nicolas Cage, and I don't think 90s.
It might be 80s. I don't know. I watched it a while ago. It's
The
probably
point being,
the 80s.
it
But
has
the
not
point-
held
the point
up the
being,
same way some
it
of its
hasn't.
peers have.
But I feel like I feel like movies about, kind of the high school experience, if that makes sense, where it focuses on a group of people who aren't necessarily the most popular kids in school at the time, or people who that character trope kind of holds up better
Yeah.
throughout time.
Certainly.
I feel like they resonate more. It's like Freaks and Geeks, which
certainly still holds up today.
exactly. I feel like when you have a movie about a very popular group of egocentric teenagers, why those teenagers are popular fades away. Mm-hmm. Those values don't hold up over decades or.
They were very fleeting.
Exactly,
The things that were talked about, the pop culture references, aren't
Exactly.
gonna hold.
Whereas I feel like a movie like Clueless, which is a very similar movie.
Which feels like Jane Austen, really.
Exactly, because it does hold up over time, because even though the characters are these high school students who are very privileged, the themes of the movie and the references they make and the way that they speak is very intelligent.
So, lesson learned. If you're going to have a film that's going to stand the ages, make sure your characters are interesting and you're not relying on too much pop culture.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a fair.
But how does that work for this? Because there's tons of pop culture in Pulp Fiction.
There are, but I feel like the pop culture is pop culture that remained popular past when it was made.
It's been vetted through
Exactly.
time. Oh, that's a beautiful shot.
That's a beautiful
This
shot.
is a wonderful shot, and the fact that it's so static for so long before we see him jump out, I think that's a gorgeous instance of just patience in a filmmaker.
Also, the cab driver's great.
Yes, I don't know what she ever went on to do after this.
I don't know, but she is great, and she.
I love her accent.
Me too.
There's a
Butch.
line cut out where she says, "My name means Esmeralda of the Woods or of the Wolves," and that's why she asked Bruce Willis what his name means, and he says, "My name's
He's
Butch."
like, "I'm
It
American."
means nothing, which is I always was bothered by because Butch means something. It's an adjective.
Valley Girl was made in 1983.
Okay, so there we go.
It also has a terrible IMDb rating. Not terrible.
Well, I mean,
But
the
6.3.
cover art should tell you enough. Not to
Yeah,
watch
exactly. It's also Nicolas Cage when his hair looked like a skunk on his head.
It. Nicolas Cage was gonna be in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Why is this
in a
guy the
speaking
same
role.
as the bartender?
What do you mean? That's his new backup guy because they can hire whoever they need to do these kind of jobs if they're willing to pay him.
Got it.
Yeah. So because at this point Jules is dead, or Jules has moved on to walk the earth.
Correct.
Yeah. So they probably need to find someone on short notice. But I imagine for now, mostly it's just Vincent working on his own with occasionally Paul there, Paul Edgecombe. No, that's the Green Mile. Boy, that. The other thing is, the cool thing about the Band-Aid is that it tells us this is probably not several months from the last time we saw him. And that Band-Aid was just a happy accident. I think it was just because, Vincent or Marcellus had this weird thing on the back of his neck for real, or Ving Rhames had this thing on the back of his neck that they covered up because it was distracting. But I think it's actually a nice little touchstone for us
It
to
is.
understand where we are in the story.
What I was think is interesting about the way that Quentin Tarantino shot Marcellus is that we never see his face until he is in a position of distress.
We
Like,
really
he's
never see
always-
him straight on.
I don't think.
Yes, we do.
Not
when he's
until.
when he's on the phone.
But at that point,
With the wolf.
we'd seen him already then.
Yeah.
We have.
Well, we just saw him turn right there. The next time we see him is he's turning to see Bruce Willis in the car. And that's definitely not a position of power because he's about to get run over.
That's what I mean. Like whenever he's in a position of power, we never see his face. He's
very
always this
serious.
very. Exactly, he's this very stoic figure
Kaiser
who's not
Soze.
humanized.
Yep.
There's no human element. He's just this name that they all kind of.
Yeah, he's mythological.
Yeah. Until he gets hit by a
I'm not even
car,
trying to
and
pronounce
I like
that word.
the outside of the car here.
Black
Look
and
how
white.
shaky it is. Like, it's all so great. The artifice is so obvious, but if you're so engaged with the story, you don't notice it. That's the thing I love about this. This is ridiculous
Until this shot.
in context. Like, this makes no sense in context. But we allow it because we want to. And the fact that he just throws that out the window and
Yeah,
there's
it's
no
fine.
wind to take
Yeah,
it.
it's fine. It doesn't matter.
You can practically hear it landing on like the ferny
Like,
pad
boop.
underneath them
Yeah.
on the ground. But I really think this is again just ridiculous. This black and white background, but it works
It's
somehow.
Great. Yeah. Well, I think that we're not focused on it. Like their
Ideally, we're
dialogue is
not.
so compelling that.
And that's the same thing with regard to continuity errors. Is if people are paying attention
Well,
to that,
notice
you've
they're
lost
stopped.
them. Yeah, they're stopped right now for no reason because the background wanted them to be. But there's obviously stagehands moving it when the background changes. Such an unglamorous position.
Stagehand.
Yeah, in that instance, they're probably just rocking it with 2x4s.
Yep.
That's what they did for the Millennium Falcon.
Really?
Yeah, imagine every time you see the Millennium Falcon going through like some serious turbulence, imagine people on the outside of the set with 2x4s pressing on it back and forth.
Wow.
Yeah. It's hard to watch movies once you know a lot about them. Like a good movie will wrap you up in it to the point of not caring, but it is hard to distance yourself from like filmmaking techniques and stuff when you know what's going on. Not that I know a lot of it, but certainly more than
The average bear.
yeah. More than the average bear.
Yeah.
And all my filmmaking knowledge comes from obsessively watching movies and reading about them. There's been no formal education in that regard, so. But, yeah, I think this is a nice little scene, especially considering that it gives us more time to get a handle on what Butch is like. And the fact that we get to see him process, he just killed someone, and he thinks about it for a second, and then he's like, whatever.
I think it's fine. It's a means to an end for him.
It absolutely is. Look at the smoke just goes straight up.
It's actually interesting because this is the first time he's killed someone, and he didn't even know that he killed them. And of course, as we're going to find out later in the movie, he does actually kill someone.
Yeah,
And he knows
and that
it.
is intentional, although it feels almost reactionary considering it happens when
The toaster.
the toaster pops
Yeah.
up. the Vaughn's brand toaster pastries that look so awful.
I also meant when he stabs that person with the samurai sword.
Oh yeah.
Sure, but you could also argue that that's in, you know.
Well, actually, I would say that is the most deliberate of all the murders
Yeah.
he's committed, because that one was
Pure
specifically
rage,
decided.
it was, yeah.
He wasn't reacting because something caught him off guard and he had a gun in his hand.
I also like that even though Bruce is the kind of character that does all these things, you know, that typically you're like, he's the character that you root for.
He's a scoundrel.
Especially when you meet his girlfriend or wife, whoever she is, and she's like this like such a charming little French girl, and he's very dimensional character, even though we never really learn. The only thing we've learned about him is that his dad was killed in a prisoner of war camp, and he has this watch, and he's a boxer who used to work for Marcellus. Like, those are the only things we ever learned about his past, but at least it's just like compelling character that you can't help but empathize with.
I agree, absolutely, and it's fun to watch this tracking shot.
Yeah.
And to consider, and all the way, this is further ripped off in Fight Club. There's a scene where they do this really long tracking shot around the narrator's character as he talks to Tyler for the first time. This, when you see them drive away, you'll know where they are. It's right along the basin, right along the freeway. I want to say, I'm not going to get it right. I'm not even going to bother. But when we see them drive off at the end of the scene, I bet both of you know exactly where they are.
I also think she's kind of the like, antithesis of everything I ever imagined about a cab driver.
This woman, absolutely.
Yeah, like when I imagine cab, I do not imagine this like gorgeous, you know, foreign woman sitting there. No.
Agreed.
That is not my... I've been in a cab where the cab driver got pulled over
Holy
and
hell.
like arrested by the cops. Like, this is not my cab experience to date.
You should have called a Uber.
Oh, why not the Ubers?
Maybe called Big Jerry Cabco.
Looks
Big
like
Jerry.
that ride cost him plus that tip about 100 bucks.
45
Yeah.
bucks
Yep.
in 1990.
For money.
Yep.
I like that we are now hearing police sirens.
I know.
In our real
In
world.
our real world.
And Butch is hiding from effectively a lot of people.
It's
I imagine that would be, yeah. So there's been talk, and I believe it, that Fabienne is pregnant and hasn't told him yet.
Well, yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I was
that's
feeling
what
by
it
the
was from
whole
the
belly
pot belly
thing.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
She doesn't really
you
know
can
what
see
to
her kind
call
of
it.
processing it, and
Yeah.
she doesn't quite have a handle on the situation yet. Do you think they live happily ever after, these two?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Good.
That's
And you
kind
do
of
that
my
because you want them
impression.
to.
Because I want them to, and also just think I like them both as characters. I think that they're both very...
I think he's very grounded. Although he
Yeah.
loses it at one point and throws the TV, he then sits down and realizes it's not her fault. I clearly didn't emphasize it enough, and he very quickly says, "Okay, it's now my responsibility. I'm gonna go take care of it."
He's got rage issues, that much is clear. He is a boxer,
does.
so that kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
I agree. As abhorrent as it is for me to see him basically domestically abusing her in that scene, I get that he is somehow fundamentally good.
He's
If
also
he
under
can
a
rein
lot
it
of
back
pressure.
in,
Yeah.
and, you know, I know this is not your fault, effectively. Now, that doesn't excuse the outburst, but
No,
it
it
certainly
doesn't.
atones for it a little more than if he'd just been like, fine, now I gotta
But
go get it.
also, based on the way she reacts to it, my impression is that they do not have like an abusive relationship.
The fact that this doesn't become old hat and she reacts so strongly is
The fact
something
that
that this is probably
like,
not
she's
normal.
clearly
Yeah.
like this is clearly the first time he's ever done anything like this, you know, like, and this is clearly I'm not obviously excusing any sort of domestic abuse period at the end, but this is clearly a time in his life where he's under pressure that he's never been under before, and
I that.
think it's clearly the first time that it's ever happened between them. You know, I feel like in the past he's always been able to kind of like control his rage, and then it kind of exploded in this one instance, but then he realizes that, you know, it was very wrong.
I think you're right. And these are all the things that a good writer can bring, you know, these moments of character. They get added to by the actor, they get added to by everyone in the production, but it has to start in the script. And in this case, this is actually a story that Quentin Tarantino took, or rather bought, from Roger Avery, who is the one of the producers on the movie. It was about a boxer who basically this was all going to be a movie, and then it was shortened down into about 40 minutes and added to this movie. So that was pretty cool, actually. And then obviously Quentin Tarantino added his own little thing to it. But yeah, this is a sweet scene. I think it's very intimate. It's very indicative of what a conversation between two people when they're truly alone would be. Not a movie version of it, you know. It's obviously moving at a faster clip. I don't think a lot of people realize how much downtime there is in a typical conversation. Movies typically cut that out. But it feels real.
It does feel real.
Yeah.
I don't know that Robert Avery directed The Rules of Attraction.
What's that? Robert Avery directed The Rules of Attraction?
Or he had a role in it somehow. It comes up on his...
He's been a producer for quite a few
Yeah,
things.
he directed it.
Wow.
I've never seen the movie, but I read the book.
He got into some trouble recently being 10 years from now or ago.
From now in the future.
Regarding
He gets
like
into some
credits
trouble.
on this.
Yeah.
What
I don't
happened?
remember. I think he wanted more writing credit. Or Quentin Tarantino. So Quentin Tarantino, for as much as we can talk him up as a talented filmmaker, I've read accounts of him from his like very good friends, and he doesn't seem to be a very good friend in himself. Like he seems kind of insufferable at times.
Is he
which
the
I
kind
get.
of insufferable genius type, or the kind of just insufferable type?
I mean, we like his movies enough. I think he's a genius of sorts, so I guess insufferable genius is closer, you know. But, you know, I don't know. I'm always frustrated to hear when people don't treat their friends well. Doesn't make me happy.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
But yeah.
I do like the scene a lot.
Yeah.
It feels very real.
Yeah.
It's not like the perfect sex scene, you know, where they just like go at it and then it's the next morning and they look perfect.
But the sound is very inclusive. You feel like you're right there within earshot of these two people because the sound is very intimate. It's not crushed, but it feels like the microphone was truly just between the both of them and you are getting almost that ASRM kind of sound with the whispers that people do on YouTube. I think I got that acronym right. Maybe I didn't. A fair amount of Bruce Willis dong in this movie. Keep an eye out, ladies and gents that are so inclined.
Bruce Willis was apparently a heartthrob back in his day.
I mean, he was on that show Moonlighting, and Die Hard put him on the map for movies, but...
I was reading this article the other day, and it was, you know those, like, teenage magazines, like Tiger Beat?
Sure.
He was, like, the
No.
Tiger Beat guy.
What year?
I don't know.
Because that's a
like, when he
little
was
creepy.
younger than this.
Like, he's always seemed so old to me.
I know. It's like Bruce Willis is like, yeah.
I
Go
love this.
fuck your shit up,
This
Bruce
motel
Willis.
really does seem like a real motel, though.
It does.
Like, that is the exact kind of shower door that if you pushed a little harder, it would just fall off.
Yep.
And I
No
like that this is
amenities.
another shot through the doorway.
Yep.
And again, we are not given all the information that we need in terms of what Bruce Willis' character looks like right now while he's talking. We get to go on Fabienne's reaction. I like that. It's actually really fun to watch her react without knowing what exactly she's looking at.
We also don't know her very well as a character.
Yeah.
But we feel like we do, because that's the beauty of Quentin Tarantino, is that he just brings you into these scenes where you have this immediate connection with people that you
Yeah, you're
only
some sort of
figuratively
included
met.
interloper,
Yeah.
if that can be a thing. I wonder if there is so there is the fourth wall convention, which is the idea that the camera always occupies the fourth wall. But yeah, I don't know if there's a name for that kind of like when you feel like you should be in a scene but you don't get to contribute to it.
It's a good scene.
Yeah.
Her brushing her teeth is also a very big scene.
She brushes them
part
forever,
of this
apparently.
motel scene, like the next time
She's still
that he
brushing.
wakes up, she's brushing her teeth still. It's
She
all
never
does.
went to bed.
Nope. She just brushes her teeth.
Yep.
It's terrible pink tile.
Well, I mean, like the Valley and all the hotels around the freeways aren't exactly known for their savoir-faire.
The Valley Girls are gonna pop in any
Oh, the
second.
Valley Girls. Oh my God, is that pink?
Oh
That's
my
the
god,
best color.
so pretty. I just love it
It hurts
so
my
much.
it hurts my voice.
Yeah.
And my soul.
I can do that for a long time.
Wow.
It's pretty dangerous. It's a good weapon. Brushing your teeth.
Yeah. She seems like a very innocent person.
She does.
Like she just seems kind of like a babe in the woods kind of person.
She's very trusting.
Yeah. God, I don't know if this. I bet this movie was picked specifically when Quentin Tarantino wrote it. I bet he knew exactly what was going to be on TV. I love that shot with her in the reflection, though.
Yeah.
And technically Butch is there too, but he doesn't occupy the same. He's not lit. So to get her to show up, they had to light the hell out of her against the TV. Like I can't imagine how bright it was for her, but they didn't do that for him.
And they didn't care about Bruce Willis.
In that instance, no, they didn't. Yeah, this really is just beautifully lit.
Yeah.
Like it's.
The shadows are great.
It's stark but diffused, which is a rare ability in that particular scene. Like those are like beautiful pastel colors.
Those
And
are
the
Renaissance
sheets take on
painting.
the color of his skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very Renaissance. It's kind of a Vermeer kind of light, you know. It's which he was renowned for basically setting up scenes and not camera obscuring them, but effectively he would document the light that was there because he had a tool that let him do it more than other artists of the time. So when we think of really good light in classical paintings, you think of Vermeer.
Where's the watch?
Where is the
Not
watch?
here.
It was on Little Kangaroo.
Yeah, which is so funny.
Oh, she's so proud. Look how she's talking. It's so sad. Because she doesn't know that she screwed things up yet, inadvertently or otherwise.
But in actuality, had she included the watch, he would not be free and clear. So,
Well, that's a very good point.
in theory, she is the reason why they get to live off their happy little lives in
That's
Tennessee
a
or wherever
very
they end
good
up.
point. Now look at how slow the zoom just started.
Yeah,
There was now
it's anxiety
the
causing.
tension
It's
ramps.
Like, yeah,
And ideally, the zoom would be so slow that you wouldn't notice it. By the
I
time
also
it's
love
pushed
this,
in.
the contrast between their two suitcases.
Her little vagabond one.
Hers is like very like prim and French, you know. It's like this little leather trunk, and his is just like this mess of like a black bag.
It's his
She's
and
like little
hers.
lace on it, you know. His is just like. I think it's funny.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how long they stay on this shot. Does it last until he throws it? No, that doesn't happen in this shot. Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I put it there. He's like,
He's like
no.
frantic too.
It's Dad's watch. His dad went through a lot.
Doesn't have time to go into it right now.
But it went through a lot.
And that very nice push in. Now, I don't know. I haven't had enough chance to do this to really pay attention to why I would choose one or the other. But there's a big difference between the viewer's effect between a push in and a zoom. You know, when the camera moves through space versus the lens compressing space, we as the viewer understand the difference subconsciously, but I have not experimented enough to understand why one is valued over the other. Can either of you think of a movie that's had like a really good zoom? You've just
Jonah?
never seen anything like it before?
Well, yeah, I mean, whip zooms is,
Okay.
is a relatively good example because you can never move the well, not never, but I feel like it'd be very difficult to move a camera like you would a whip zoom, which obviously, you know, gives that sense of relative urgency.
Okay, so like that, can you think of what movie uses a whip zoom really well? Can you think of any? I like whip zooms personally as an editor because you can disguise in the middle the cut. Like if you just, you know, between whip zooms, you have two different whip zooms, you just wait till it gets blurry in the middle and cut between them, and you've just created a whole new whip zoom to a different scene.
I have to think about that, a movie with a whip zoom that...
Paul Greengrass is pretty known for his handheld camera. He doesn't often do whip zooms. Like the Bourne Supremacy is got a really nice handheld camera. Paul Greengrass then did United 93 and a few other movies.
I like that. I did appreciate that movie.
Yeah, well, that was a stressful movie, but very good. There's going to be coming up a really good split focus shot, and I want you to tell me if you see it before it comes or when it comes up. I'll wait till it passes before I notice it, before I point it out. Are you familiar with the split focus diopter?
Is that something that... Well, hang on. Let me...
Okay, take your time. No rush. Bruce Willis is getting pantsed. God, I love the shadows in this movie. All the light is just great. God, I don't want to be in this motel room. Like, I like the light, but I don't want to be in there. It looks like it might just...
Be a motel room.
Like, it just... I don't know. There's something about it that looks permanently dirty that is not very comfortable to me. I like that they have a little bottle of champagne. Oh, they were going to celebrate. That's so sad that it's unopened. I just now noticed that. Aww. You know what I'm actually noticing? The decor in this motel is from a couple different eras. I guess, yeah. I guess they're like, well, don't upgrade it all at once. Let's just piecemeal this in.
I love the little Nissan, I believe.
Is that a Nissan?
I think so.
This
I
is
don't know
a
what it is.
great
Honda. It's a
shot.
Honda.
It's her car.
It's a Honda.
Yeah, and he had to crash that Honda. Myself, I've never had to crash a car. Have either of you? Okay. Just so we're clear on what had to means. You can hear on the radio, for the viewers listening at home, that this is that radio broadcast was talking about something involving Jackrabbit Slims.
Oh, was it?
I've heard from people that have listened to it very intently, and I don't intend to because I don't care that much, that the radio was
Priorities in life.
talking about a theft of the Jack Rabbit Slim's dance trophy.
Seriously?
If that's true, that means Mia
Stole
and
it
Vincent
did
may not have
want
won.
it. Yeah.
That's
They just
that's pretty
stole it.
funny, actually.
So it's the kind of thing that adds more depth to the story if it is the case. I've never tried to get that far into it. But I also like that this whole shot is one take as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an important difference between the screenplay and the final movie. The screenplay, you actually get to see this shot at the end. So instead of starting with it, you now see Bruce Willis showing up, doing all the stuff with Vincent, leaving, and then you follow him on the way out. And by switching it, it just changes the tension from it. You know, it actually now, by it being in the beginning, gives us that kind of slow build-up that we know something's going to happen. We don't know what. Now we're waiting for him to get ambushed anywhere. And if it had been at the end, it would have been, okay, who's going to catch up to him and get him? So it's just this different level of tension depending on where it's used. I really like it also that the Steadicam operator had to go through the hole in the fence. That's just brutal.
Mm-hmm.
They're carrying 80 pounds
Poor guy.
attached to their back, essentially, and they're having to step through this that didn't even look easy for
Do
Bruce
it for the
Willis.
art.
Yeah, it's all for the art. Oh my God, Steadicam operators go to the chiropractor,
I think
5
this-
times a week.
Yeah.
Oh wait, have you ever used a Steadicam?
Not with a back brace, no.
Right, got it.
It looks hellish.
Yeah, not that bad.
Oh really?
Yeah,
How much rig did you put on it, or how much weight was
How
on
much
it?
rig?
for about 60 pounds.
Oh, that's 60 pounds too much.
So you're like 6'3".
Right, but also you have to keep in mind that it's really all about the knees at that point.
Really?
Oh
Use
yeah.
the
That's where
knees.
you put most of the weight at that point?
Oh yeah, that's what breaks first.
Wow.
I think everything about this is brilliant.
Now tell me why.
I don't know. I just like the way that he calmly walks in, grabs the watch. He clearly bought a band for the watch at some point in his life. Goes in the kitchen, and at this point, he's like, "I'm confident. I'm in my house. No one else is here. I'm gonna make myself. What am I gonna do?
You
I'm gonna make
it's
myself
your
some
house.
Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
You know, I'm hungry. I don't eat. My girlfriend's off eating blueberry pancakes. I'm gonna make some toaster pastries because we can't use
You think he's
Pop-Tarts.
trying to level the score?
Yeah, you know, he's like, I'm gonna eat some toaster pastries.
I like
Makes
that.
them. And then the moment where he's at the sink and he looks over right here and he just sees the gun, the acting is so good.
Uh-huh.
Everything about this is just such a well-timed.
And look how it wasn't a pull back to reveal the gun on
No.
the counter. It was a push into him,
Exactly.
looking at the gun, and
Exactly.
then the payoff
Yeah.
of the gun push in. Very well done.
I just think everything about the way,
His
like, it's just so
eyes.
incredulous. He's
Yeah.
like,
oh yeah. Look how much of an affront that would be.
Yeah.
There's someone in my house waiting to shoot me, and
No.
it's this asshole.
it's goddamn John Travolta with a stupid face
Notice the
standing
book.
there.
Notice the book.
What
Notice
book?
the book. Is Modesty Blaze
What book?
that it's in his hands?
He's holding a book.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he was it's the same book he's reading
Yeah,
in the
he
coffee
was
shop
the-
later.
yeah.
Uh huh.
It's apparently some manner of like pulp novel. I've never read it.
Right.
It didn't ever appeal to me. I did like the
Like, keep in mind,
Liechtenstein style.
If he has the book
cover.
here
Big fan
and
of
another
Roy.
scene, right? Because he has that book multiple times.
Uh-huh.
He literally brings it with him
Oh yeah.
with his gun. Well, I gotta go. Okay, I gotta go get this guy, Butch. Fuck that guy. I gotta get my gun, my silencer. And my book.
Well, imagine at this point, Vincent wasn't expecting to actually run into Butch.
Like, why
they
would he
didn't
come back
think
to
he'd
his
return
apartment?
home.
Yeah.
He was just there in case. So obviously the stakes were lower in his esteem. But apparently they weren't because they must be thinking he was going to come back
I
at
also
some
love
point.
this part. Like,
the brief
I'm just
moment of
gonna wipe it
understanding.
here.
Fingerprints.
I'm gonna wipe it here, maybe like a little bit over here. Oh, but I might touch it there. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
it's
enough.
cool. Someone came in here,
All
shot
right.
someone, and then left the gun.
That's
Something I
fine.
learned today, which may or may not be true, but apparently gasoline removes your fingerprints from
Yeah,
things.
we learned that too. Where did we learn that from?
Unsolved BuzzFeed.
Oh yeah, BuzzFeed.
Gasoline is a solvent, so that makes sense.
Of course, nobody heard those gunshots
What?
either.
But that was the guy
Well,
from
those
the
were
Black Dahlia.
with a bullshit suppressor
Yeah, but
on
that
it.
was
you know?
loud as fuck. Let's be real.
Every silencer in a movie is like incredibly effective
No.
compared to what they are in real
I
life.
hold true to my theory about the original apartment where Brett got
They just
killed.
don't
They just
notice it
this
because
is
they
a
don't care
sketchy
anymore.
apartment in sketchy LA. They're just like, I'm not getting involved with that. Here you go. I don't want that.
I like the frames within frames that Quentin Tarantino uses.
Mm-hmm.
They're really nice.
No, he's stoked.
Yeah, now he's feeling chuffed. And I like that that's just a cut right back into the car.
Are we British now?
Yes. It's a phrase I like. I think,
just
I've
feel
adopted
so very
rubbish,
chuffed.
I've adopted chuffed, and unfortunately I say anti now instead of anti.
I like daft.
Are you daft?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you say chuffed?
It just sounds daft.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're just being daft. It sounds it. I don't know.
So, now in this case, do we think Marcellus was coming back to give donuts to Vincent? Like, do you think they were both at the stakeout together?
Definitely. The only question is, why would Marcellus go himself to get donuts?
Yeah, I mean, well, in this
Maybe it's
case,
very particular donut requests that he can only
here's,
fulfill himself.
here's the thing. I think...
No seatbelt?
Oh, wow.
It's the 90s.
Well, they're in a
There
tow
were no
car as
seatbelt
well.
alarms.
You know, they don't typically care about safety in tow cars because the tow car is going to get it worse, the front one. Maybe Marcellus's level of gangster and notoriety only applies to people that know him, and he's able to shed that image when he goes out into the real world. Maybe he understands that, yeah, I'm important and mean to a lot of people that are worried about me, but the donut shop doesn't need to know.
And he's definitely bringing notice because he had 2 drinks.
Yep, so there we go.
Just, yeah.
Okay, now wait. Now let's
Nice
see.
fade out. I like this again.
Had to crash
Indicating
the
that
Honda.
time. I had to crash that Honda, baby. And then, have you noticed in the credits that Kathy Griffin is listed as herself? So Kathy Griffin here, the redhead, is actually apparently not an actor.
Kathy
Or she's just
Griffin.
playing herself in this movie. I think she and Quentin Tarantino were some sort of friends at that
I
point.
also like that his shirt was like a chef's jacket.
I'd never
it's
noticed
a
that
very
before.
interesting
I think
fashion
it's
choice.
kind of like a 90s mod
Oh, it
thing.
completely is. It's just a very interesting. I'm sure he
Like
thought he was
Arsenio
very
Hall
cool.
I love when he
Those.
pulls out the gun.
Yeah.
Oh,
he,
yeah,
like,
and everyone
staggers
scatters.
toward him. Yeah.
This
Also,
woman gets
all the
shot
glass
she
he's
falls the
pulling out of
exact
his
same way.
face.
Here we go. Here you go.
Ready.
Shot fire number 1. Of course, hits the bystander in the hip. That's the best part.
Yeah.
Boom.
This woman
Bystander.
is the same woman that gets pulled out of the car by Steve Buscemi in Reservoir Dogs.
Really?
She falls the exact same way on her side and kind of flails.
That's
It's a
her
go-to
thing.
move.
Yeah. I love that
Oh.
he fires a gun into the cement there. Like, that's just such a wrong thing to do that...
I also just love like the scene of these 2 broken men staggering towards
It's
and away
basically
from each other.
playground on the real world.
It's just
That
yeah.
was the split field diopter shot, by the way. So
Got
that
it.
shot where you could see him very sharp and Marcellus in the background, that's the... there was a dividing line that he had to cross before he could be in focus.
Also, what do you think this glass bottle's gonna? I mean, like, in all, like, this is just a terrible plan.
I think he just wanted something else to have in his hand
Yeah.
that added extra mass.
Now, here's the interesting part.
Yeah? I love the lights through the bars on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
on the ceiling. What's the interesting part?
No,
Besides the
no,
fact that
no,
he's about to murder someone?
I like his Converse. It's very relatable.
This clearly in the closet guy who owns this,
Clearly
pawn
in the
shop.
Can we
Has
define what that means?
2
Clearly
different
in the
colored
closet
eyes,
guy?
which I think is a very interesting
Well, he's-
character touch.
He's gay, I would assume.
Oh, God, it's so funny because I don't even associate this guy with being gay.
No.
I associate him with being just a power
Just a
freak.
depraved,
Yeah.
weird man. Yeah.
Like,
me
I
too.
think he's really in conflict with himself. I think when someone's this evil, it doesn't matter what sexual
No.
orientation they are.
But he has 2 different colored eyes, which I think is interesting because I feel like it immediately puts you
I had not
a
noticed
little
that
bit.
my
He does. He
entire
has a
life.
Blue
brown.
and
He has a
gray,
brown
or-
eye
yeah.
and,
You're totally
and
right.
a blue eye.
He's got that dichrotic. I'm not going to get it right. he's Kate Beckinsale.
But it immediately gives you a bit of a weird.
Well, it
You know what I mean?
immediately
Like
gave you
something
bit
a
of
little
weird. I never
odd.
noticed.
Yeah.
He's horrifying.
He is. He's
Yeah.
just horrifying.
And Peter Green is even more evil. Like,
yeah,
when
I
he
mean,
comes
he
on,
actually does the
he's-
doing.
Well, I'm sure they took turns in the sense that was their plan. So,
Yeah.
equally horrifying.
Zed.
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 A British Z. See, we're on the British
Yeah! God. Horrifying way to wake
theme.
up.
It is horrifying.
There's nothing good about
Oh,
this
we've
wake
just
up.
been ball gagged.
You know
and
what's
are
the
being...
worst is that at the first you don't even know that that's not urine.
No.
Like the first time before you've seen the fire extinguisher, which by the way, can you believe that's what fire extinguishers used to be? Just upside down cans of water that you had
Yep.
a nozzle for. My dad used to have one of those that was turned into a bank. They cut a hole in the top and you could just put money in it. So I remember those very well.
Pretty great.
Oh, there's a really great subjective shot coming up. It's when he's doing the eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and they show the camera pan over to Marcellus, indicating that he is it. It's just a really nice little moment of kind of, I don't know if it counts as postmodern, but it's really fun. I like it. And again, listening to all the sounds, like the sound design of this scene is so crucial because everything that happens behind their back, just like when we were seeing what's his face get shot at the beginning of the movie, everything behind their back that they can't see is a point of stress for them.
Mm-hmm.
So when the guy goes to open and get out the GIMP, all those sounds you can watch on their face how they react to them. I just love it. I used to think that this character Zed was an actual sheriff, and I only recently noticed he's like security patrol.
Oh, really?
You see where it says on his armband,
yep.
security
Security
officer.
officer.
So, I mean, I'm happy to know that this type of person isn't an actual police
So
officer.
He also
clearly
doesn't have a
on a
belt
power trip.
or a gun.
He doesn't have a belt or a gun, you're right. So, just clear lowlifes that are doing horrible, horrible things.
Horrible thing. What I also like about Quentin Tarantino is that, you know, there's a point in the scene where they go and they get this clearly sad man dressed in this leather skin tight suit, and we just accept it.
I've been told it's called a cat suit. I learned that from watching Archer.
Like Catwoman?
No, just, maybe.
Well, why
I've
doesn't
always
he escape?
Is that a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man mask down there in the bottom right?
Probably.
Did either of you see that? Wait till the next shot of Peter Green. Bottom right. Okay, so now here's that sound design thing again. You can see them reacting to these sounds, and the subjective camera work here again. We always get to see. We get to know a little more than they do, but we're still put ill at ease by this. I like that.
Because it's very strange.
It's a
very
stressful
weird.
situation.
Yeah.
And I also was creeped out the first time I heard this. Put him in Russell's old room.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell happened to Russell? Like, those are the kind of little one-liners that that are of no import, but they give you so much. They tell you so much about the characters.
No, why doesn't the guy in the gimp suit escape?
Well,
What's
we're
the
talking
goals?
about various people with psychological damage now.
Probably a
Who
little
knows?
Stockholm syndrome
Yeah.
happening, you know, like.
There are
Because at one
any
point they
number of
tie him
people.
up and he clearly has free movement of his hands.
Well, no, they tie him up because it's just part of their S&M game, but
It's like a leash, a
he's
dog.
not there. He's there willingly, roughly, or at the very least, he is now. He's been beaten into submission by his captors.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, and you can convince pretty much anyone of any. You can brainwash people pretty easily. We're fairly malleable. It just takes time to break someone. I imagine they've had this guy for years.
That guy's like a sad Matthew McConaughey.
What, Peter
Peter
Green?
Green.
Oh yeah. Did you see The Mask? He was in that movie.
No.
He plays a villain in The Mask. He's in the movie Blue Streak with
He
Martin
reminds me of
Lawrence.
Matthew McConaughey. Just-
Yeah,
I think
I'm
it's
seeing
the
it
hair.
now.
I think it's the hair.
Here's the shot. There it is. When he just picked him.
Yep.
It's that little bit of the camera saying, "All right, here we go." It's just all of it's such a beyond real situation.
It is.
I wonder how much of this was in Roger Avary's script, the original one, before they incorporated it into this movie. Because I've never read that.
Well,
I think it was just called
it
The
was
Boxer.
a short story written by Roger Avery and
It was
Quentin
a short
Tarantino.
story. I was told it
Or
was a
some
script.
I'll look it up. Some
Look
sort
at this.
of
I love
story.
how he ties him up.
Oh yeah, the three little things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually important later.
Yeah, because he's probably going to strangle on it. I never liked this post-production slow-mo. It didn't feel right for this movie.
No.
It felt like an afterthought.
It's too gangster.
Yeah,
Just not.
It's
yeah.
not as done. It's not done with the same level of finesse as the other ones. Like the other
Okay.
ones seem deliberate.
I'll make sure to let
So-
Quentin know.
Well, he'll hear this, I'm sure.
It is from a story by Tarantino and Roger Avery,
Mm-hmm.
but it incorporated some scenes originally written by Avery for True Romance.
Oh, okay. That's nice. True Romance. Oh, I could watch True Romance forever.
I've only seen like half of it.
Well, it's interesting because that's one of the only, maybe there's another one, but I can't think of it right now. One of the only Quentin Tarantino scripts, besides Natural Born Killers, that he didn't direct. Because he had 3 scripts he was
Oliver
working on at the
Stone,
same
right?
time.
Is that
Oliver
Natural
Stone did
Born
Natural Born
Killers?
Killers, and Tony Scott did True Romance.
Here you go, boxer.
Boom! Done.
He's literally hanging by a thread.
So, but yeah.
We should watch.
I think
True
that would be a very good idea.
Romance. Should
And
be our next.
it's fun because True Romance screenplay was written out of order as well. He was all over the map, but
That's Christian Slater and
Rosanna Arquette.
yep.
Yep.
Who plays Alabama?
Rosanna, yes.
Yep.
And now that's another point about this Quentin Tarantino movies is that he writes many projects simultaneously. So you'll often see things in, people call it the Quentin Tarantino universe or the QT universe or what, I don't know what catchy name they have for it, where you have like certain characters who come. So in Reservoir Dogs, the hitman that's played by Michael Madsen, the guy who cuts the guy's ear off, is related to Vincent Vega's character. And that is never really addressed, but there was always talk of there being this Vega Brothers movie somehow with Michael Madsen and John Travolta both playing the two characters. But the only reason that all happens is because these movies get written in parallel with each other. It's not necessarily that Quentin Tarantino's trying to create this rich tapestry of a world. He is.
Interesting.
I believe it's inadvertent in that case.
Are the people that have? I'm sure, in the wild world that is the internet, there are people that have, mapped out every Tarantino movie and kind of connected.
Oh yeah.
Dots.
There's probably a wiki for it that's
They have,
very
and I've seen
comprehensive.
it.
Yeah, and I don't put much stock in that because I really feel like it's very incidental. It's the same reason why when Quentin Tarantino directed an episode of ER, or it was ER, I think, he had a scene where someone was trapped in a coffin, and that later showed up in Kill Bill Volume 2. These are because he's writing these things simultaneously. He has good ideas, and he squeezes the life from them. Mm-hmm. Like, he's going to get that coffin scene as many times as he can.
Yeah.
And but you see that often, where it's just, characters that have a cool sounding name, like Alabama, for example, is mentioned in True Romance because that's the character's name, but it's also in Reservoir Dogs when Lawrence Tierney character asks Harvey Keitel's character, "Are you still with Alabama?" There's another split field shot, a diopter. See how he's focused, and so is the creepy guy? That's because there was a diopter.
Guy?
I can't even
is that
name
his
him.
moniker?
Maynard
Creepy guy.
He's creepy guy. You see how over his shoulder it gets a little blurry?
Do you think the actor's eyes are actually two different colors? Or do you think that was an intentional choice made by Tarantino? Or both?
I love this
It's a
backstab
great
right here.
question.
Ready?
It could be both.
Boom.
See, I actually don't like it. It looks like he's too far away for that to make impact.
Oh no, that made impact.
Well, you think they really killed him?
Oh yeah, he's dead in real life.
That's
it's
really
a
really
stomach.
harsh.
It's a stomach hit.
Yeah.
He's not dead right now. He's reeling on the ground,
Yeah.
miserable, and in
he's dying,
insane amounts
certainly.
of pain.
And
Well deserved pain.
yeah,
but
everything.
Pain.
This is this is full on karma.
Also, all of a sudden, this guy is like not so macho anymore.
The what's that?
It's an instant switch from him being empowered to him being this. It shows his true colors. Like he's not.
Yeah, if these were individuals without weapons, the dynamics would be incredibly different. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they wouldn't be. Maybe the two people you'd think would be the most powerful would be exactly the two people we're looking at right now.
Well, he's a boxer.
Mm-hmm.
He clearly
God.
has some sort of.
That had to be the worst squib to go off. Like where it went off, ow. I hope he got like a serious cod piece. Oh, deserved every second of that.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
I
completely.
shuddered. I just now noticed the bloody handprint on the back over the shotgun to the right.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need to see that.
No.
That's horrifying. Bad things have happened in this room. They won't anymore.
No. But I love this scene too. How Marcellus is in front and Bruce Willis is in the back, Butch, and it's very clear who is still in power.
Oh yeah.
Even given what just
Yeah.
transpired.
No, and you can tell that right now. That's the best part about watching movies without the sound.
Yep.
You can tell so much by how well a
Look,
filmmaker has staged the shots.
Look at his hand. He doesn't have handcuffs on right now.
He's rather timid,
but he
but
is
he's still a
protecting
prisoner.
himself.
That's
Like
great.
it's
I
very
like that.
clear who is in control here.
He's just watching it play out.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's really funny that all of these things that Marcellus is now saying to Peter Green, they only came about because Marcellus misunderstood the question that Bruce asked. He meant to say, "What
Like,
now
what's happening between you and
us?"
me?
Not,
But-
"What are you gonna do with
But
this?"
it's like, oh no, I'm
asshole?"
gonna bite your fingernails.
It's
My
so
friends are gonna
great.
come down here. It's gonna be terrible for
With a
you.
blowtorch and some pliers.
Yeah. Which again, well deserved.
So great.
I also love that he calls him a rapist. It's this very powerful word that I feel like you don't hear men use in terms of other men very often.
Certainly not coming to terms with it just having happened to
Exactly.
yourself. You're very right.
It's a very powerful in the moment connotation of the scene.
You're right, and then it speaks to Marcellus for all his horribleness and his ability to kind of rein things in.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
impressive.
he's like, no matter what I've done, at least I'm not a rapist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Question: Why
like
is
prison
there
yard
so
rules.
much blood on Butch's shirt?
He's been
His
bleeding
nose.
throughout.
Yeah, but his nose. I mean, like it looks like he's had his heart cut out. I mean, there's just the blood on him compared to on Marcellus is
Marcellus never broke his nose.
I know, but he got by a car.
That is a fairly large amount of blood.
I mean, that is
I'd
a
never paid
large
attention to it.
amount of blood.
It's grown over I don't know. Maybe it's just been soaking in more.
Yeah. He's bathing
Maybe
in
they
it.
just wanted to make it more like how he was in Die Hard, where by the end of Die Hard, he's just this brown lump of clothes. Like, he's got no wardrobe left by the end of that.
Poor Gimp.
He had a bad life, and that sucks.
But he's
By
got a
the
couple
way, notice the
years.
record player on that shot, bottom right.
Wow. Yeah.
Look at that thing. That's what I like to do when I, rape people.
That's classy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works,
What do
right?
you think he listens to?
Well, we know. We probably heard the
Seal.
exact song they were playing when they
Seal?
played the scene.
Like Killer.
Kiss from a Rose.
Yes. That's the theme for Batman Forever.
Now,
That song.
now I don't never go to a pawn shop.
This
I
is
mean,
great.
if I didn't have enough reasons
Forever
already.
ruined pawn shops for
yeah.
you? I like this shot, that takeoff scene. It's great.
You got there really
There's
fast.
a crew member you'll see in the window coming up as they walk out off their like post. That guy on the
Oh, I
right.
see him. Yeah.
He's like, okay, I'm done with this shot. I'm gonna get out of it now, but not very fast. I only noticed that the last time I watched it.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. But I again like that we don't get to see what happens in there. We don't need to. It doesn't matter.
I also like that even though she knows that they're in danger, she has had the door open.
Yeah, that's a very good point. She's not super like
Like, she's
alert to
clear-
that
but no,
level of stress.
No, I think she clearly just trusts him. You know, like he's
Really,
saying,
like he's gonna settle the problem, like he said
yeah,
he is.
like I think that
That's a
she
lot of
just
trust.
believes in him to the point that she's like, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna keep the door open because I want some fresh air right now, and it's fine.
God, I actually put myself in her situation when I watched this and think if this man that was effectively gonna, be the person I was spending my life with was gone for as long as he was, I would be freaking out.
Yeah.
I would be so stressed.
Let me make a comment real quick. So she's about to hop on the bike, and now they're going to leave off into the
You mean the
sunset.
chopper?
Right,
It's
the
Chopper,
Right,
It's
but
Chopper, baby.
Zed's dead, baby. But remember, he's coming back from this whole ordeal that he went through.
Yeah.
Where's the money?
Where's the money? He's
What
gonna go
money?
collect when
In
he gets to
Tennessee.
Knoxville.
God.
He hasn't gotten the Knoxville.
Yeah.
He has because he was all set. He took the money he got from Marcellus, had it bet on
He bet
different
on
bookies
it.
in Knoxville
Yeah.
by his
What,
guy.
what was it? 8 different bookies?
Yeah,
That
8.
was
I think he
they
said so. So yeah.
And he's stoked now. Him and Fabian get to live their whole life,
How much money do you think he
Innocent.
walks away with?
enough to live comfortably
Yeah, it's
in
for a long time.
It's
in
not
a
going to be
Mediterranean
enough
Costa
money
Rican
to
country.
live like hogs in the fat
Yeah.
house forever.
but in some sort of South American
Oh,
island.
look at how sad. Like Fabian's just like so resigned to
Yeah.
that. It's so like she's such a sympathetic character. She's done no wrong that we can see.
I think that was late checkout.
Noon. No, that was like a 2. Oh, the
The
Bond
the
Bond
Bond situation.
So
Quentin Tarantino's a pretty
not
good
only one of my
actor.
favorite
Give him
scenes.
credit.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
This is not only one of my favorite scenes.
Jerry Seinfeld's doing good.
That's terrible.
That's one of the Arquettes, actually.
It's horrible.
It's another Arquette.
Not Patricia?
I don't think it's Patricia. Patricia has bigger boobs.
Yeah. And longer hair.
Mm-hmm. She's so good in True Romance.
Notice his pants are unbuttoned.
Well, he was going to the bathroom.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he was caught a little off
Right,
Yeah.
guard.
He happens to have a gun in the bathroom, but all 3 other guys in the main house don't have a gun.
Well, we don't know that they don't, but they certainly don't
Not
have
to
the
get within
wherewithal to
reach.
get to it before
Yeah.
they get shot by gangsters.
There could have been a gun in the bathroom that he was able to get to because no one was watching him crawl around the bathroom floor.
Yeah, because we never really get a
Oh
handle
wait, let's
on
look for
these
the
kids.
bullet holes.
Yep, you'll see them shortly.
Let's look for them.
It's on the wide. It's on the 2 shot of both of them standing.
Right, and those. Okay.
Because it hasn't happened yet. It's not until they.
Yeah, not yet.
It's not until what's his face comes out of the bathroom.
Look at the distance that he gives between this shot.
Yeah, yeah. There's a
Bang,
lot of
bang,
nice
bang.
empty space.
That guy's dead as fuck.
And I like how Vincent has no qualms shooting someone in the back, like
No.
at all. It's truly the most unsportsmanlike thing you could do if we're talking about shooting people being a fun sport, which it's not. But it's just such a vehement and horrible thing to do. It's just, wow.
Oh,
So-
they're the bullet holes.
Yeah, there they all are.
Wow. Can't believe they fucked that up.
I mean, I can. When you consider how many things there are to keep track of on a movie, it happens.
But that's
I'm
like a
actually
major-
surprised that was the kind of thing they left in.
Actually, you know what? It's very possible that they didn't leave it in, but the shot didn't look as good as he wanted it to, so they ended up using, a shot right before this.
Meaning he accepted the continuity error
Right,
because he
for
thought
the
the
better
take was
shot.
better.
Correct.
Yeah, I would do the same thing. If it serves the story, because again, if people are paying attention to the continuity, you've already lost them. God, he simultaneously looks like 50 and 20.
This guy,
Yeah, I've never noticed how old he looks in that direct sunlight.
it's the gray hair.
But I didn't see a skylight in this apartment, so I'm curious how that top light comes in. I guess they're trying to motivate it from a window, but I don't think that's right.
An intern.
Yeah, I don't know where this light's supposed to be coming from. Because it's like 7...
Is nobody concerned about all the gunshots that everyone just heard?
Yeah, they are.
Again, my theory. Crappy LA apartments. They're just like, it's fine. It's fine.
I wonder if those shots went through to the hallway.
I hope not.
Yeah, Vincent Marcellus.
No, yeah. Like, you know.
He gets angry.
Do you put any stock in the theory that there are souls in the briefcase?
I've read about that. I think that's... Quentin Tarantino will never say what it is.
Of course.
I don't think he ever intended it for it to be anything. So...
He's the kind of guy that strikes me as you'd ask him, what was the briefcase? He'd be like, who fucking cares, man?
Yeah.
Does it really matter?
Yeah.
After
That's probably
I made
how
the
he'd
whole
say
entire
it,
movie,
too.
after I made the whole entire movie about the fucking coffee and everything that happened in the whole fucking movie, and all you care about is what was in the fucking briefcase?
I'm going to remember to pitch your voice up a little bit when I put this track on, and everyone's going to think Quentin Tarantino just popped in.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
It is going to be great.
Quentin Tarantino has one of the most unique faces I've ever seen on a human being.
Yeah, he's kind of like Jay Leno, but
It's
like
very
a younger version.
concave.
I
Like,
will
it's kind
say,
of-
the scene, his
You know what I
cameo...
mean?
Yeah.
His cameo in this movie, though, is not
great.
only one of my favorite scenes in the movie, but also one of my favorite scenes ever. I think his dialogue about the coffee and about, keeping the car in the garage, I think that whole entire scene is just amazing.
Well, I think too, and one of my favorite like kind of subtle moments is when he's like kind of like going off about his coffee and how when his wife buys coffee, she buys the cheap stuff, and when he buys coffee, he buys.
I don't buy...
blended.
Bonnie buys shit.
Yeah, exactly.
She buys shit. And you know who has to drink the shit coffee? I do. So when I go to the store, I buy the good stuff.
No, but when Wolf shows up, he goes on
Yeah.
about how he takes his coffee with a ton of cream and a ton of sugar, and then he looks at Jimmy and just kind of chooses, like acknowledging that his coffee is just so good.
He does take a moment.
Yeah, like there's
And
a brief moment. It's those little
those
things
are all
that
the
make
little
the movie
beats.
so good.
Yeah.
And they also solidify the wolf as someone who is composed and
Yeah.
you don't feel stressed around because you feel like they have a plan.
Yep.
When someone
Which he
acts
did.
that kind of deliberately, you feel at ease.
Also, this is gross.
Yes, it is.
I would be very upset if I was Jules in this situation. I would be, and also it's John. Of course, it's John Travolta that shot the gun. Of course,
Yeah.
it is.
Well, the gun went off, I like how Divine Intervention came back real quick. Like,
Yeah.
let's just call it karma and be done with it.
I like the little bits of brain that
Yeah,
are...
and
It's
his head.
horrifying.
Yeah, it's
horrifying.
awful.
So there was a version of this that was edited for TV, which they don't really do anymore. Like if you had this on like a major network like Fox or something, you'd have to edit the hell out of this movie. The way they edited the movie back then was right before you actually see the back of the car when the gunshot goes off. They cut to black, you hear the gunshot, and then all you do is you hear Vincent say, "Oh shit, I just saw Marvin in the face," and then they cut to this.
Really?
Yes. That's it.
I also love this scene.
Yeah.
Again, John
And again,
Travolta
it's
messing it
it's a
up.
moment of character building. But that's the other thing that's so great is that you have to remember in this particular movie, these two characters aren't doing this every day. Vincent just came back from Amsterdam. He hadn't seen Jules in 3 years. They were probably cordial before that.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that these are effectively two co-workers who don't necessarily get along that well, that just have to spend a day together. It's so much more fun to look at this whole situation. It's not a married couple. It's two effective stranger co-workers.
One of whom
appreciates
ruined
clean towels,
this
the other
towel.
does not.
Yeah. Of course, John Travolta is the one
I don't
getting
wanna
blood
fucking
all over the
shit
towel,
on-
right?
He's
Yeah.
he's the worst.
He is the worst.
But I love that he thinks that if he'd had a different brand of soap,
Yep.
specifically lava, he
Yeah.
could have done a better job.
He could have, but not
He's so quick to blame the soap.
So quick. He's a victim. John Travolta is a victim. He's a consummate victim.
Oh, it's so sad. God, I love the just absurdity of these situations. Like, all these shots taken out of context are so
Quentin.
fun.
Do you think he styled himself?
That's a great question. I doubt it. I bet he had some say in what the production designer and wardrobe brought, but I don't imagine he said it needs to look like this exactly. Although maybe he did. He's that kind of guy.
I love this part.
He was going to be Lance, the drug dealer. That was going to be his.
Really?
He wanted to be behind the camera for that scene. And a good choice, too.
Yeah.
Because this is a less important role, and he should not have been that big of a role. In the
This
movie.
right here.
Yeah.
This is my favorite. When you pulled to my garage, did you
So,
sign?
what do you think about Quentin Tarantino, a white man, using the N-word so flagrantly himself, even as a character?
I think he desensitizes a lot of people to it, which is actually good because I don't necessarily think a word carries a derogatory meaning. I think it's the context it's used in.
Well, I have to disagree. I think that particular word has such a cache of hate behind it, it cannot be co-opted by anyone who is not that person.
I agree with Carl. I mean, I don't know. I just think that, I think it has a shock factor.
It does.
And I think that in this movie, it
hear it from a white
has
person,
that
especially.
shock factor. You know, it's not Jules who says it. It's this suburban white guy who is in his robe in his kitchen drinking out of a pink striped mug that just like flagrantly spews this word, you know? Like the exact opposite of whom you would imagine to be using.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's a shocking thing.
is.
And also the fact that I feel like in today's age you would expect someone like Jules to react very strongly to someone like Quentin Tarantino
We also don't know
using
Whereas
this
we
he
don't know
word.
doesn't
his
react-
background.
Yeah, and the other thing is, let's say he does have a black wife. Does that now allow him to speak that way to other black people? Is
No.
he now in a club?
No.
Okay.
I don't think there is a club.
The club is being, marginalized forever.
I feel like it's like my understanding has always been I have a little brother, and he can make fun of me, I can make fun of him, but someone else does it and it's not okay.
That's exactly how that
Because
is. That's a
we
good
understand it. You know what I mean? Like it's our relationship. We know we're joking. It's one thing. Someone else does it, it's a completely different thing. And I feel like in this situation, it's a club that I will never be a part of.
Yeah.
There's no money I could pay, no entrance fee, no hazing, no anything
No
that could
hazing.
allow me.
You can't get
to,
jumped into that one.
But also to understand the things that happened. It's a great scene. The things that happened with that word and in the context of history. It's a terrible thing, and I don't know. It's a very shock factor thing.
And in that case, it's well used in this movie.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's. But I don't think in daily use it's proper. I don't.
No one was making that case.
Yeah.
Certainly. That's a nice slow push in.
Also, she's wearing some interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with her.
Headpieces
but
with her
apparently she's gonna
swim
go
cap.
swimming soon.
Yeah.
Did
It's
you
just
have
a swim
did,
cap.
did- what's that?
It's just a swim cap.
I
Yeah,
know,
but, like, why not
who
get
would
one
the
that-
swim cap with breakfast?
I guess she's
She's
maybe
swimming.
Maybe she was.
She's very dry for having to spend in a pool.
That's the whole point of the swim cap.
Wow, this is circular logic, and I love it.
Oh,
This
that
is
dress.
great because, of course,
Yeah.
he gets
What do
his
you think
call.
this scene is? What do you think is
I think
happening?
it's at a funeral.
I think a funeral.
No,
or
there's
some sort of-
gambling going on. We heard nut reel. We heard craps.
It's a gangster funeral.
Oh, this is great. He writes down
know.
Jules Black, Vincent White, and then he writes
Body, no head.
body, no head. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the fact that these are things he feels are important tell us a lot about him before we've even met him. And I think, again, it's just all these little bits
Graph
of character
paper.
details.
Oh, that's the Gucci watch I want so bad.
I always think the Gucci symbol's a Batman logo when it's gold, when it's gold against black. I always get confused.
I also love the fact that he pulls up in this NSX.
That's a car?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are things
It's
I
an
don't know.
Acura.
It's an Acura, also made by Honda, I believe.
Well, there we go. Oh, that bow tie and that peak lapel. Not a great look.
No,
But it works for him.
he's just dapper.
Yeah, he could be a maitre d'.
He's a confident, dapper man.
He looks like a guy that would serve you at a steakhouse.
Yeah.
He does.
Right this way, sir.
That's why I like him.
Oh, my dad had that phone. A big brick of a battery on the back. Like, you could hurt someone with that battery.
I like that Jimmy went from the guy who with the power to Wolf having the power.
And that was deliberate,
Yeah.
That was someone who can now solve the problem, so the power does change.
I also like too that even though it's like Jimmy's wearing a bathrobe, Jimmy clearly has no idea what's going on. He just woke up. He's having a disaster of a day.
Yeah.
These guys are wearing suits. you know, which is an elevated style of dress, but he's wearing a tuxedo.
Yeah.
Like he's clearly
We
at
have
the
a new
apex.
hierarchy.
You know what I mean? Like in the terms of the hierarchy of clothing, like he
Yeah.
is clearly at the apex.
I see that. I agree.
This is where we officially find out it's a Chevy Nova, by the way.
Now, how? How do we officially find
he
out
says
it's a Chevy
that.
Nova? Oh, okay.
He says
Got it.
that, and then of course when you, I'm sure if you were very, very, very familiar with the style, you could look at the interior and, know it's a Chevy Nova.
Yeah, there's probably people that could look at the gear shift and know it's a Chevy Nova.
3 on the tree, baby.
What's that?
3 on the tree.
Tell me,
That's
what,
probably
tell me
not.
what that means.
This is probably a little bit later than that because I don't even know if they ever made the Nova in a manual. 3 on the tree is when you have a shifter right there and you have first gear, second gear, third gear. So a lot of the early Jeeps.
Oh, so it's describing the visualization of how the gears are laid out on the shifter?
Yeah, versus a floor, floor
Which is,
shifter.
I think it's the
or
tree,
regular manual.
and there's 3 gears that you can shift into with it.
Right, but I don't actually think the Chevy Nova, which you can actually now see in the back left.
Oh, wow, what a cool house. Yeah. That pepper grinder.
Yeah, the big pepper grinder.
is
Yeah.
very
It's
prominent.
Very Italian restaurant.
It's something that Jimmy would love.
Just say
clearly.
when. Just say when.
There's a great sketch on Saturday Night Live with Adam Sandler playing the Pepper Boy, and Chris Farley plays an overly enthusiastic Pepper Boy patron. And he has 3 lines, but he knocked it out of the park.
That's great.
Fun
Adam
as
Sandler's
hell.
another person I take issue with there.
Mm-hmm.
Like John Travolta, I just can't.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah,
Just something rubs you the wrong way.
I don't know.
Is that a Filofax on the?
Probably.
Like there was like this massive collection of index cards. Yeah, right there by the phone.
Yep.
That would have been what you'd have back then. Wow.
Back in the day.
file.
I mean, it's crazy to remember that was how you used to have to keep things in your phones. Was you couldn't keep it in your phone because the phone wasn't digital. You had to keep it in a note card next to the phone, and you had to use your memory sometimes.
Your what?
I don't know.
What else things? There's a 6-pack of beer right there. Why
There
is
is.
it not in the fridge?
Great question. The wine makes sense. The beer less so.
Yeah, I just
But you know, there's a lot of questionable design choices in this house anyway, so we'll just have to chalk
the
it up to not
stools.
quite
The
understanding
stools.
yeah
what they're
with
all
the
about.
wallpaper. It's a little
Yeah,
clashy.
it's a little clashy. Yes,
Yeah.
certainly not classy.
That was the early '90s.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
early '90s
Little
were a
clashy.
cluster of just everything was going a little
Well,
weird.
we're mid '90s now, right? Aren't we?
Yeah, we're mid '90s, but
Mid-90s.
who knows when they furnished their house?
They actually, I did a quick research online. They speculate the movie was actually supposed to take place in '90 and '91.
Oh, really? So this was made after its temporal duration.
Correct.
Interesting.
Why?
I don't know.
Why
But-
would they
but-
speculate that, and what do they
My-
have to
so
base that on?
Butch as a kid getting the gold watch,
Okay.
then figuring out how Christopher Walken's character had the watch for 2 years, the father had it for 5 years,
Okay.
and the age they were when they were at war in the POW camp. That's why they speculate between 90 and 91.
But that doesn't make any sense.
But how
when
could they know what age
the
Christopher
3 to 4
Walken was
years
at
you
the
can't
time?
tell?
That is a great question, but I'm sure that we could do some research online and figure it out.
I probably never will.
Also,
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean it's accurate.
Yeah, and that's where I get
The
into the whole
5-year
not
age
caring about
gap,
the speculation.
it does make much of a difference to me in terms of my.
If there was some unsolved mystery that offered a solution to, I'd be all over it.
Why do they have dolls?
Maybe that will be the mystery I need to go back into. I don't know.
Doesn't seem like they have kids.
No, but we don't know much about Bonnie. She could just be a weirdo.
She could. She's a nurse.
But that's the other thing, is like this house really does feel lived in. There's a huge
does,
diversity
yeah.
of stuff. The production design is so good. Again, through a doorway. Look at this. But now I think he shifts soon, or maybe I'm remembering it like he does. Is the whole scene through a doorway?
No.
I don't remember that.
No, because then you get the close up of Quentin talking about how he doesn't want to give away the bed
Thank you.
sheets.
Yes, and that should be
And then
coming
you
right
see
up.
Wolf say, "Well, instead of
Well,
Uncle whatever,
Uncle Marcellus.
Marcellus."
Hole that peels off, a couple hundreds from his massive
Let's
right
open it.
here,
There we go,
from
a
his
couple.
massive wad of
Yep.
money.
I have oak myself.
Yeah,
Oak's
Are you,
nice.
are you an oak man?
Oak's nice. I love the way he says
I know.
Oak's nice. Like, just give me the money.
Oak's nice.
Oak's nice.
Suddenly so supplicating when there's money on the table.
I was
And I
love this
lo-
too. Yeah.
They really... Okay, now look at the dividing line between the two. They are divided by the very thing
Yep.
that is dividing them. It's beautiful. And I really
Oh,
don't...
also look at the outside. You can see trees, which
Yeah.
means they don't have the garage door closed.
But they're probably up in the hills, and they probably have
Probably
a
a
recessed driveway.
Private driveway type thing.
Yeah,
I
for whatever
imagine.
reason, I feel like no.
You know what? I have nothing to base this on, but no.
This is just a mess.
Yeah, look how gross the brain is. Or the
It's
skull.
really the brain.
See, if I was
It's the
them,
brain that does it for me.
if I was them, I would just no, I don't know, not shoot him in the fucking head.
That would be the easiest thing to do. You
John
know what? Just
Travolta.
avoid the life of crime
Yeah.
altogether and save yourself the heartache. It'll be better.
Yep. Oh, he's here.
Yeah.
Now they're really drenched in blood.
Yeah, I'm noticing that most of the blood in this movie happens to end up on
Clothing.
clothing.
Yeah.
It's never really that we see it gush from anywhere. It's always just aftermath.
He's like, wow, is that even the same car?
Doesn't look like the same car.
Almost
Yeah.
like, wow, I'm a genius. Look at me go with my bed sheets.
I mean, yeah. Mr.
Could they
Wolf.
really not have thought of that on their own?
Well, it doesn't matter that they couldn't have thought of it. It matters that they wanted it done right the first time. They
Yeah.
didn't have time to figure out what was
I love
right
this
thing
scene.
to
I think
do.
it's so funny.
There's a great
I
little.
think it's funny that they also
time
scrubbed
cut.
the whole car without taking their jackets off.
Yep.
Well, why would they? At that point, they're fucked anyway.
I also like that he's like, you guys told us spend some time at County. You know what this is like. You've been here before. Does he have a peanut on his shirt? Is that
I
like
think
the
it's like a
planter's
globe.
peanut?
I think
Where?
it's a globe with a face.
Quentin
like-
Tarantino. Isn't it like the planter's
I don't know
peanut
that
guy?
we ever see it. No, it's not the Planter's Peanut guy, but it looks like
He's a very
something similar.
uncomfortably
'Cause
wide
the
all the
Planter's
way
Peanut
through
guy
John
doesn't have a
Travolta.
mustache, does he?
And neither John
Actually, we do-
Travolta or
it's
Samuel
a
Jackson
globe.
is in the shape of their life. In this movie.
But whoever is. That's the other thing that makes it so real. Like if that was,
Yeah.
you know, when Chris Pratt took off his shirt in Guardians of the Galaxy and people freaked out because he was super buff, that was a moment that was very distracting.
Yeah.
Because that just doesn't serve the story. If they'd made it so that they, you know, these two actors who knew they were going to be shirtless, they worked out for that, I don't think that would be true to the
No.
character.
No. 'cause
So it's
they're
really
clearly
good
not
that
the
they
kind of
didn't do
guys
that,
care
and-
about their
Yeah,
physique.
you can see all the little water spots on the lens. I just now noticed that. See all the little out of focus.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this dissolve. Is it? No, it's a fade. It's a fade and then a
Fade.
fade back up. It's rare to see a movie use this many fades.
I know, I was
Like
saying
fade to
that
black and then
yesterday,
fade back up. It's not done very much
Yeah,
anymore.
it looks like a couple of dorks.
Yeah.
Yeah, in your clothing. That's good.
Yep, everyone
Quentin
gets a
Tarantino
piece.
strikes me as a relatively dorky person, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like it's pretty.
Yeah, look
on
at
the
him.
nose.
Yeah. Well,
He's
he works.
adorable.
Yeah, he's adorable.
Did he go to UC Santa Cruz? Is there any connection?
No idea.
Just out of
Oh,
curiosity.
poor did Marvin.
Aw,
Marvin
Marvin.
had so much more head than I thought he should.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of head for what we saw in the back.
Yeah.
Are we keeping that much blood in our head? And I don't see what's on Sam Jackson's shirt. Can you? It looks like some
No.
sort of cartoon scene.
I'll let
Yeah.
you know in a minute.
Yeah, I think we get a much closer look
I
at it
don't,
in
I
the
don't remember,
diner.
but
Now, this is the thing that I like. Again, I was talking about how I don't like it when directors go perfectly symmetrical all the time. Quentin Tarantino seems to diversify. Like the back
Mm-hmm.
shot of the wolf was symmetrical. It's perfectly framed.
'Cause
The
he's
other
power.
one is a little off.
Yeah.
You see? It's so different. And I wish I knew the reason why or even what it did psychologically to me as a viewer. But I find it fascinating. I like how even though they're basically needing to stay away from the law, he says, I drive real fucking fast, so keep up.
I know, me too.
Like, you're not going to try
Yeah,
to
like,
be a
you're
little
not
more
gonna- yeah,
reserved, buddy?
exactly.
You so comfortable? I'll say, no, this is Julia Sweeney. And at the time she was on Saturday Night Live, her husband played the Gimp.
Really?
Yes. Yep.
That's pretty funny. Mm-hmm. Very, very, very integral acting role. I'm sure it was very difficult to achieve.
Yeah, you know it. And you really, well, I mean, think about it. That'd be a pretty confronting role to play. Okay,
Yeah.
here's your suit. Okay.
There you
I'll
go.
just, can you zip me? It'll take 2 hours.
Yeah,
but-
exactly.
So, I like that he offered them a ride, even though that's a two-seater car.
Well, clearly it wasn't very meaningful. And then he's like, oh, move out of the sticks.
Yep, I'm not going to do that anyway.
By the way, that car in the background, see all the way in the back?
The
I believe
green
that is
one?
also a Chevy Nova. In fact, it may be.
What if it's the one that they?
It might be.
Well, then that's too bad because they're supposed to be giving that to Monster Joe to be demolished.
Yeah.
So is that really a car worth aspiring to? Is there
The
something?
Acura NSX?
What's notable about it? What's good?
It's just a
fast.
sports car.
Okay.
All-wheel drive. Nothing incredible.
At
but
the
it is a
time, was
sport-
it?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it is a sports car.
Okay.
Like, even now, their value is probably 30 grand used.
Okay.
Which is a lot for, a car like that.
Yeah, absolutely. This movie always makes me want breakfast foods.
No,
This movie always makes me want to smoke all these cigarettes.
This grill is now closed.
They really, really
Aw.
need help on their font.
I love that font.
Me too. It's so Art Deco.
The
Yeah.
grill font
I love it.
reminds me of Miami all the time. Forever.
Well, that's
Miami's
kind of the
pretty
style.
Art Deco, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like it.
terrible.
I also think
The
Jules
worst.
just ordered a muffin.
Yeah, he's clearly doing a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
Or he's just a smart actor that knows he
What
shouldn't
is-
have a lot to eat.
What is on his left wrist? Just a
It's some
bracelet.
sort of bracelet that's like hard metal.
Like
Um,
gold?
Yeah, I don't think it's malleable. It looks like a.
So not gold, probably.
I don't know. That's a great question. I've never really paid that close attention to it.
It's fucking badass.
Is it?
I mean, no, but whatever.
I mean, just everything
Well,
Samuel L. Jackson does kind of
Confidence
badass.
is all it takes to
Yeah.
wear any of that stuff.
Wait, I look at it. He has a necklace with a J.
I know, me too.
I've never noticed it says J.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
Jay.
Jules.
It's Jules.
Which
Yeah.
is which means something for
I don't
sure.
think I've ever felt the desire to brand my own initial on myself.
No, but
Jewelry.
that's the best part.
But yeah,
I
you
think
know,
he
it's
does.
a lot about him as a character.
Yeah, I remember the wallet, the bad motherfucker wallet, was
Yeah.
a
Oh,
very
that's
hot item on
hilarious.
eBay at the time. Like 1999 was when I started experimenting with eBay, and
Experimenting.
like trying to see what kind of weirds. There used to be a section on eBay called like weird stuff or like weird.
This
junk.
not
that sounds dangerous.
Okay, so that's my favorite area of eBay to
I'm clearly
explore.
not an avid eBayer with you guys.
I eBay way too much.
Well, eBay's a tremendous resource, and that motherfucker wallet is the one that was like so popular on
That's
eBay
so
all the time.
funny.
Yeah.
The bad motherfucker wallet is so funny to
That's
me.
something nowadays you buy on like
It's
Etsy.
the one that says bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
He pulls it out and it's like literally like because when you first watch the movie for the first time, I don't know if you remember, but I remember my reaction being like that's just a really snarky ass comment, but he's just being he's
Oh, no, I
serious.
mean, I thought he was being real.
He's
It's
like,
his
no,
character,
this
you
is
know,
the
he's
bad, bad motherfucker.
Yeah, he can back it up. It's so hard for you, isn't it?
I just, it
Oh,
just
John.
bothers me.
And now you have to watch him eat.
Have you ever watched Grease?
Yes. You will
Enough
not.
said.
You will not hear me commiserating with John Travolta with you because I find him to be a good actor that I enjoy his work.
I do not enjoy
What's
anything
the
about
big
John
deal with him being a
Travolta.
pilot? I don't really get that.
He's a
Everyone
pilot?
always makes
Yeah, he's a pilot.
every time I hear a joke about him.
I think it's because it's unusual to have an actor that is famous for more than one thing, or at the very least has more than one ability that we've heard of.
Oh, because he's.
I don't mean to disparage all
You know
actors
why?
as being
I think it's because he has a
one-dimensional.
private runway.
He has a private runway.
He does.
Wow,
He has a lot of money. How
Yeah.
much money is John Travolta worth?
Oh,
depends on the day.
lots of money. Does anybody want?
I
care to know?
guess 150 million.
I mean, who knows? I don't think John Travolta is the celebrity he used to be.
No, but I think he made a lot of money back in his day.
Yeah, well, so did Nicolas Cage, and he's broke all the time.
160 million.
Hey, you were really good.
What'd
Nice
you
job.
guess?
That's a 150.
150?
Well, we'll let the record show that.
Well, maybe he spent 10.
On his runway.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't work. Either way, net worth is always kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
So look at the highlights, the bokeh, the background that are out of focus, all the squares. That hard edge on the right of those circles, just so we see on the next shot. Waiting. That one. Okay, right behind him. See all the squares?
Yeah.
Those are because they have an actual, in addition to the matte box, they also have a mask in front of the matte box that limits all the additional light spilling on to the lens. So that makes the shape of the bokeh take the square shape.
Have you ever
Very
shot
interesting.
anamorphic?
No, I haven't. I would love to. It would be a fun experience.
Yeah, we should do it.
Well, it requires a certain kind of lens, and then it requires a certain kind of projection or telecine transfer.
Right. I have. You can mount a diopter for anamorphic directly onto my 28-135.
Okay.
And then I have in camera and of course monitor D-squeeze, which allows you to view it with the D-squeeze on, so you can.
Oh, so you get an accurate.
Correct. You can change your ratio, all the way up to 2.33 or whatever.
I'd be very curious to try
Yeah,
it. I
it
have
could
no
be very
stories
fun.
right now to tell that require that kind of frame, but I'd be curious to see what it's like to work with an anamorphic
Me
lens.
too.
Because again, the things they do to light are so different. I was actually I had not actually looked to see what was shot, what this movie was used, or what lens type was used on this movie, until I noticed that Bruce Willis' face seemed a little compressed, like a little squeezed in from the left and right in one of the scenes. And so I had to look up if that was an anamorphic effect, and that was one of my giveaways. So I was happy that I could realize what anamorphic looks like without
What
having
else
to use
has
the
that
highlights.
actress been in?
The woman that says Garcon means boy.
This one.
Amanda Plummer. So I Married an Axe Murderer is a movie of hers. It's
No.
in fact the only other movie of hers I know.
I've seen her. What's her name?
Oh, that's Roger Avery, by the way. That's the yuppie scum. He's the guy that wrote the middle act.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I just now noticed you could see the camera reflection in that, or shadow in that one.
The Hunger Games. That's what she's in that I know.
Now, who are we talking about again?
Amanda Plummer.
Oh, Amanda Plummer's in the Hunger Games? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's one of the.
Oh, this guy is credited in the credits as Coffee Shop. Because he gets cut off when he's saying, I'm not a hero, I'm just a coffee shop, and then he gets talked over. So they just
That's
credit him in the
awesome.
credits as being Coffee Shop. I love that there are so many things happening just outside this world.
Yep.
They are being robbed at gunpoint, and everyone is driving by because they have no idea.
You're getting gas. They don't care.
And I like the flares happening with this because of all the natural light. It feels very documentary. Especially considering, again, how much light they had to use. They had to use 12 different 12K HMIs. That is so much light that they're putting out for this. It's amazing.
By the way, I don't know if you have an interest in this, but I think that's pretty interesting.
That's Quentin Tarantino shooting at the diner.
Yeah.
That's a very cool shot. I had not seen that.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Very nice.
Yeah, and...
What did you, for the people at home, how did you get to that? What was your Google search string?
Well, it started with camera and lens from Pulp Fiction, but of course that never does it. What I had to do was I went onto shotonwhat.com, which is very, very helpful. They usually have very, very good specifications, and then you can go to Google Images and you can find out, the exact camera. It looks like if you go to Images, you can scroll down and you see a shot of him in the diner. There looks like there's a few shots of, the rig up close with him in front of it when they shot him as Jimmy, which is pretty interesting because it's such a giant camera.
Yeah, well, Panavision cameras are definitely not known for being small. But they're also self-blimped, so they don't make a lot of noise.
So now you said that this is 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
So what would keep someone like me from going, on eBay, buying a 35 millimeter camera?
Film camera?
Yeah, or a Super 35 camera.
Okay. Same camera, different gate.
Right. And filming and having this quality besides, obviously, all the skill that's put into this, but the quality of resolution.
There'd be nothing stopping you. There's never anything stopping you from creating your filmmaking dream. I would love to see it, and I want to be part of it, so you let me know when you do that.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to shoot on... The only 35 millimeter movie I've ever shot has been on a hand-cranked camera, and that was fun as hell to shoot, but as a result, I don't have a lot of experience doing filmmaking with 35 millimeter cameras.
Right. I guess you'd have to... Well, that's a conversation for another time.
Well, let's take a look at this light here. Where is the side light motivated from? Is it meant to be coming in from
Every
the side
window.
window by the coffee shop
Well, actually,
manager?
do you see the light that's coming on the right side of his face when he's
Yeah.
holding the gun?
That's motivated by the windows.
Well,
That
technically
makes
the
sense to
kitchen's
me.
that way.
What's that?
No.
Technically, the kitchen's that way.
You're
No,
just
it's
that
not.
way. It's behind,
Yeah,
it's
no,
behind
the
the,
The kitchen
wall.
side
is
of
back
his
and to
face.
the right
His
of,
right.
of his right now.
Yes, his right.
Yes.
Right there, boom, his right.
Yes, his right. Yes,
The
that
window.
is near the kitchen,
Right.
but not facing it. Like that light looks like it's coming and hitting him from the side in a way that it couldn't be coming from the kitchen.
Well, where
So I
would
think
that
it's meant to
come
be coming from the window behind Amanda Plummer, but the fact that it's so sharp says that everything else should be very weird as well. So you let it go eventually. I have a hard time with it sometimes.
from? Boom, there you go.
That's a quick move too. I love how quick she's like a jackrabbit on
I know.
crack.
She's like, let him go.
Which I guess is good because her name's Honeybun.
Well, tiny little
Yeah.
lens flare
And
right
pumpkin.
over his head.
Oh yeah, when he moves just a little bit.
There he is. Yeah, there it is.
Totally. Oh, she's
A little
She's
crazy.
serious.
Yeah. A little crazy, that one.
yeah. He's got a neat looking gun with the pearl handle there.
Colt
Like,
1911.
That's a Colt 1911.
Yes.
Do you know what revolver she's using?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But if I
A
had to
little
speculate,
one.
it's a revolver.
Oh, that's good.
That's a good
Snub,
start.
it's definitely a snub nose revolver,
Yes.
hence the snub nose.
Hence the nose that snubs people. So Tim Roth, has an amazing American accent. He doesn't get to
Really?
use it very much. Well, he's not. I want to say he's either New Zealand or English.
I think it's English.
I think he is
They
English.
could also potentially be South African for all I know.
Well, let's
I mean,
look
they
him
all
up.
kinda
You find him
sound-
out.
I'll
But the
find
fact
out.
that he has such a good American accent, like in Reservoir Dogs, is really impressive to me. And I don't think
He's English.
He is English. Okay, so.
He's English.
But in this, he's not using his English accent either.
No.
It's not Cockney. It's more like New Zealand Australian.
He was born on the 14th of May in 1961.
1961.
He's now 55 years old.
Wow.
In Dulwich, I apologize if anyone's British and they hear me say that because I think that's how it's said. But if it's not, then that could be different.
Dulwich.
Dulwich.
Dulwich,
London, England.
We are now reading facts because we need edification.
And he's married to Nikki Butler.
Is that a person?
I mean, it's his wife.
Is she famous?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Let's
Does
Google
it
her.
matter?
Does
To
it
me, I don't
matter?
care about her otherwise. She's not famous. Now, that's actually a unique scene right there that they showed Jules holding the gun, and by the time... So they cut to two different shots, profile shots of these two people talking. The gun stayed the constant within the shots. Like, it just moved a little closer when they cut to Tim Roth's character. Which is cool. And now he's closing the briefcase. What's that? Oh, Tim Roth. He's got some stories to tell. I encourage anyone that wants to know more about Tim Roth to Google his history. Now we have a new standoff. Quentin Tarantino loves his Mexican standoffs. I don't know if this counts.
John Travolta coming in being an idiot once again.
What? He's not being an idiot. He's keeping the situation under control.
I think that Samuel L. Jackson had the situation perfectly under control until
Yeah, you're right.
John Travolta decided to point his gun at
But
poor
at
Honey
least-
Bunny.
At least the odds are now stacked in both of their
I
favor.
have to pee and I want to go home. I pretty much say that every day.
Poor Honey Bunny. I think that's such a beautiful moment, though, that she can break and
Yeah.
let the act go where they were so confident before.
Yeah.
It gives me anxiety that his finger is on the trigger, like so on the trigger.
I agree. I'm not a fan of
Especially
that in
considering what
movies.
happened with
Well, that was with Vincent, though.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Vincent,
And that was a different gun.
Vincent also has a 1911.
Are they the same gun?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And Vincent also has his finger on the trigger.
Why? Well, they are hitmen. Why is it Why is it called 1911? Do you know?
Was the first
I
one
would
made
actually,
in 1911?
I would assume it was
Like a
probably
Smith
made
Wesson.
in 1911, but
Okay.
they are extremely reliable guns.
Are they police issue or that's a Glock? Huh?
Actually, now I believe they're SIGs, but what do
Okay.
I know?
Well, more than me. I got none of this stuff.
Pay $1,500.
I love just the way that Jules can speak
Yeah,
is so authoritative.
it is.
Because at this point, yes, he has all the power, all of it. Look at him.
I like he's like
Point
the
the
gun
gun
back
at
at
me.
me.
Yeah.
Point it
Point the
back
gun
at
at
me. Yeah.
And then she gets that nice little shut up. Yeah.
Be cool. Be cool.
Be cool. It's cool.
I really wish Jimmy walked
Tell her to
in
be cool.
Yeah.
to this scene.
Oh, this scene needs more Jimmy.
Yeah. And he's like, fuck the coffee.
This is he can just poke his head in, like complain about the coffee, and then leave. Well, that would be, maybe that will be something Quentin will add to the next release of this.
His face.
Scene needs more Jimmy.
More of him.
If he were George Lucas, that's what he would do.
There you go.
We can't all direct Star Wars.
No. I wonder if any of those extras in the background ever just took a nap during this scene. Imagine having to be like that woman right there with her head down for the
Yeah,
entire scene.
seriously.
And trying to act scared.
I'd be pretty stoked.
I feel like you wouldn't be after the 8th hour.
I would
of it.
love to be in a Quentin Tarantino film, minus the fact that I have to be in the film.
But the actors probably don't love Quentin Tarantino. Like, this is like one of his
This is his
first
second movie.
movies.
They
No
don't
one
know
knows who he
yet.
is. Like, they're just like in this movie, sitting in a diner, like, oh my god. Been here for 10 hours.
Especially
Couldn't
that
get
woman
it right.
who's in this reverse
Yeah.
shot.
Okay,
I don't know if
here's-
she knew what she was in for.
Who is more famous in this film? And I already know the answer, potentially. Probably not. Samuel Jackson
That was a slippery slope
Samuel
of
Jackson.
confidence.
or, actually, between the three, Samuel Jackson, Quentin Tarantino, or, oh my god, I'm forgetting it, Butch.
Bruce Willis?
Bruce
Bruce
Willis.
Willis.
Are you saying who's most famous at the time or now?
Correct. At the time.
Bruce Willis.
hands
Right.
down.
He was
John Travolta's
basically-
probably up there as well.
Well, no, John Travolta hadn't had his comeback yet. This
Oh,
movie
that's right. This
gave
is
him
a
his comeback.
comeback. Yeah.
So
So
would
he,
you
he
say
was
that?
got for a song.
Yeah.
Why would you say that Bruce Willis was? I would almost.
He was a heartthrob.
I would almost say this was like a cameo for him.
What? No.
No.
He's the entire middle of the movie.
Yeah, but just the middle.
He does have the shortest amount of screen time of all the main characters.
Right,
But-
which is
but-
like,
but it's an
oh my god,
extremely
we got Bruce
impactful
Willis.
short
Let's give
time.
him a main role for a sub part.
I don't think so. I think this is a
No.
true ensemble cast. Unlike a lot of movies that claim to have an ensemble cast, like I look at Magnolia or anything by like Paul Thomas Anderson, those aren't necessarily ensemble movies. Not everyone is truly equal. Whereas I feel like in this movie, if you're going to say there are four principals, let's say it's Jules, let's say it's Vincent, let's say it's Mia, let's say it's Butch, I think they all get relatively good coverage. I don't think anyone's feeling like, if only there was more of this person in the movie by the end of this movie.
Would you call Jimmy a cameo?
I mean, I don't think it's I don't think cameos happen in movies. Like, I mean, cameos do happen in movies, but
When it's
a movie
Not
is,
in the way
all
Yeah.
that you
it's
define
all
it.
self-contained, so it's not like it's a guest star.
Right. Bad motherfucker.
Cameo is the closest I could say to Jimmy's appearance, but
But again, he's still an integral character in the movie. It's not like he just walks on screen to
there's
be
not a
himself
lot
and
of
then
dead
leaves.
weight in this. Yeah, and I always think that guy looks like George Takei for a second. And I'm like, no, he wouldn't have been that old at that point. And also, I think he's Indian. I couldn't tell what that guy was.
That guy?
No, the guy's we've already passed him.
Yeah, the Chinese guy.
Okay, you think he's Chinese?
I think so.
I couldn't tell.
I also love the cash register.
Is the old one?
It's
Yeah.
very cool.
Pretty badass.
Definitely 91.
God, that can't be comfortable.
No, I was wondering that.
We
Like,
have to
that's
keep
a
talking to the
terrible
credits,
idea.
by the way, just FYI. We don't want to leave people that have stuck with us this long in the lurch.
Oh yeah, if you stuck with this long,
So,
you should
this
give
movie
us
was
a
written and
call.
directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Let's just commentate on the credits. So
Pumpkin.
there is a moment at the end, the very last bit of Inglourious Bastards is kind of obnoxious because there's
Wait,
a whole...
wait.
Have you not seen it?
She hasn't seen the last 20 minutes.
Okay,
I've seen all of it up to the last 20 minutes.
okay,
The whole thing.
all right. I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
And everyone else
let's wait.
listening to this, good luck.
Yeah.
So, see, Kathy Griffin is herself. Linda Kay is the shot lady who's been shot. Stephen Hibbert, isn't that the name of Dr. Hibbert in The Simpsons?
I have no idea. Never really
Long
known.
hair, yuppie scum.
Lawrence Bender. Yeah. So I was struck with this movie on many levels as I've watched it over the years, but it's become more and more
Chip.
enjoyable to me over the years. I've been able to pay more attention to certain things, and I think there's quite a few watchings of this movie before you really get to understand it.
Well, Alan Sherwood.
Is that
Sure.
someone you know?
No,
But
No,
there's
no.
a name, huh?
it is a name. I do like.
Hair extensions.
Hair
There
extension.
were
I was
hair
thinking that
extensions.
wig maker.
Do you think it was Vince?
Yep.
God, I hope not.
Why?
Gaffer. I'm sorry for that guy.
Why?
Gaffer.
Did he make too many gaffes?
Best boy grip.
I fully admit to not fully comprehending what the difference between like gaffer and grip, and I have friends who are those jobs. I've just never paid enough attention, like to be like. So I know you do something with lighting, and occasionally you help the camera move. Tell me more.
Yeah, and that's all. Lead? Oh, lead painter.
Lead painter.
No, they're
lead
using a lot of
painter.
I
lead
was like,
paint.
lead painter? That doesn't sound safe.
I was noticing today that there are a lot of words like
Yeah.
wind and wind and tear and tear and lead and and
Read and
lead.
red.
Like it's
Live
hard.
and live.
Live and live.
Okay,
Yeah.
there was wine
English
involved
is
in viewing, and now we're at the
brutal.
credits.
Like
yeah.
this is brutal to people that are not native speakers. Those contextual
Well,
pronunciations.
and English we have idioms too, like step up to the plate.
You're
Like,
talking to
what
someone
does
who's
that
had
mean?
several.
Who to anyone who wasn't raised in an American culture where baseball is a thing, like it doesn't
Yep, basically.
pew over the head.
There's an episode of Archer where he gets stranded on a desert island and he's talking to the only person that speaks English that can also speak to the native inhabitants of the island, and he's like, "You can't keep using idioms. I don't know how to translate them. Like it doesn't work. Stop."
Yeah.
So I get that. But yeah, you do take those kind of things for granted quite a bit, those little terms of phrase that... So, for example, I was just talking to my neighbor yesterday, Jason, and we were talking about, okay, let's cut to the chase. And I said, it's a filmmaking term. And he had to stop and think, oh yeah, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
Same with it's a rap.
That's
Yeah.
a wrap.
I mean, that's more apropos, and people think, it's a rap.
That's a
and-
wrap,
Yeah.
people.
Wait, what does that mean? What's a CD?
What's a cassette?
I know what a cassette is.
S.
I record on cassettes, bro.
Oh, that's hardcore, bro. A CD is a compact
Son of
disc.
a preacher
man. That's funny.
Dusty Springfield, who I just
go.
recently learned was a woman. The name is male sounding in my mind.
What's
I know that I
the
can
name?
hear her singing Dusty Springfield. The Ace of Spades.
I have a male name. It's okay.
Yeah, you do. No, you have a gender neutral name.
It's true.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I didn't realize Dusty was a name to begin with, so
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
it can be whatever you want it to be.
Surf Rider. I wonder which song that was. I wonder if those are chronological.
Bob Ogle. Killing it.
The Young
Bob.
Racer. I think the Young Racers was the motorcycle movie they were watching.
That would make sense. Ginger
Yeah.
is interesting. Not this part, but the credits at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
They are longer than any credits I've seen in a modern meaning movie, a movie that's come out in the last 5 years. Because I feel like people...
This didn't come out in the last 5 years.
That's what I
It came
said.
out in 94.
No, thank you. Because I feel like nowadays they have credits for, like, they say the 5 important people, and then the rest of the credits are over the beginning of the movie.
And Quentin
It's very
Tarantino,
interesting.
here's the best part. You have to imagine that you are now Quentin Tarantino watching movies when he was growing up, which would have been the 60s, 70s. That's the way they used to load the credits into the beginning of a movie.
Right.
So he probably just said, I'd like to return to that, and then
Yeah.
brought it back in, which is what you saw him do again with Grindhouse and with Kill Bill. He uses it as like a nice slow burn to hear the soundtrack.
Yep.
I had a really good time with you
Good
kids.
job.
Thank
This
you.
was great.
If anyone ever listens to this, God bless you.
Yep. Have fun. Drink responsibly.
Everyone can now see if their recording is still going.
Yes, and I will
Yeah.
stop it.
And let's all stop
3,
it.
2, 1.